We are live.
Namaskar Mandali. Hello everyone. This is Ulka Nagarkar, Maharashtra Mandal Chicago 2022 President. I welcome you all in today's Itihas Manch session, which is our history club. We have weekly sessions and we discuss about a lot of different aspects of world history or Indian history or Maratha history. So without getting delayed, I will like to invite our history club Itihas Manch EC liaison, Chetan Rege. Please take it forward. Thank you.
Namaskar. So this is Chetan Rege. Ladies and gentlemen, I really welcome you all. Thank you for joining and your time. Today we actually bring an extremely important topic in our today's world. And before we do that, I would like to tell something about our Itihas Manch. The word Itihas, Itiha plus Asa, that means as it is happened. So this basically is an effort that Maharashtra Mandal Chicago started in 2021. On every Friday evening 8 p.m. we bring speakers renowned in several topics, and we bring uh, the speakers on various topics to discuss all the important subjects related with history, be it in any part of the culture and world. So today's example is that. So the subject today we bring is the fork, and this is brought to you by team of Itihas Manch, myself Chetan Rege, Madhav Gogavle, Vishal Navalkar, Shalaka Rege, Anuradha Kelkar, Prasad Athnikar, and Ulka Nagarkar. And speaker Mr. Jankar Gadkari ji, welcome to Itihas Manch.
Thank you very much.
And special thank you, Shirish Gadkari Kaka, for referring Jankarji to us. Jankarji has done so many sessions with Itihas Manch, and we are very thankful to actually have him. Several topics we discussed with him and learned from him so much. So we are very grateful to him. So today's topic, the fork, talks about all the Abrahamic religions and their origins and the story. All these religions basically are Judaism, Christianity, Islam, and Baha'i, and some other minor religions are there. So the impact of these Abrahamic religions is on modern day population. If you see, more than 50% of the population is actually following one of the Abrahamic religions. So more I can go on to this topic, but would like to basically have speaker talk about it. But before we do that, I would request Madhav Gogavleji to introduce the speaker. Jankarji, thank you. Madhavji.
Namaskar and welcome to Maharashtra Mandal Itihas Manch. My name is Madhav Gogavle. I'm a board of director Maharashtra Mandal as well as coordinator of Adhyatma Pit and Itihas Manch. It's my pleasure and privilege to introduce Mr. Jankar Gadkari. Most of MMC Itihas Manch members know him as a great presenter who delivered 7 fascinating presentations on Itihas Manch in the past. Jankar Gadkari is a founder and managing consultant. He is a tedious speaker, a passionate facilitator, and an equally ardent corporate trainer. Despite having an extremely dedicated legal background, his passion for touching humanity has driven him to the field of training and coaching. He is an accredited and certified trainer and coach. He is the founder of AEIO consulting firm specializing in emotional quotient, profiling, workshops, and coaching, a specialized grooming, business etiquette, and cross-cultural competencies. He also was the founder and director and chief trainer officer in Meta Human Consultancy. He is an associate of Institute of Company Secretaries of India in New Delhi. He holds a degree in law with public and private international laws. He delivered numerous presentations at prestigious institutions in Bharat, USA, and Europe. As a trainer and motivational speaker, he was invited at various forums such as Indian Merchant Chambers, several corporate houses, educational institutions, government and non-government bodies. He speaks on subjects ranging from management, productivity enhancement, leadership, soft skills, cross-cultural competency, and international relations, and especially conflict resolutions and several other topics. His high point was when he addressed the Millionaires Club at West Palm Beach, Florida, USA. Jankarji is deeply engaged with several NGOs. For several years, he has worked towards the various humanitarian causes involving education, culture, health, and hunger. He has handled several core areas and legal resources in executing projects and peace. History is passion. With the detailed research, he brings out unknown, interesting facts about several historical cities. On behalf of Maharashtra Mandal, I welcome Mr. Jankar Gadkari and request him to take over to start his presentation, which we have been eagerly waiting. Jankarji, it's yours.
Thank you. Extreme gratitude to Madhav, Chetan, Alka, and the remaining office bearers. And also, of course, all the members who are here present at the moment in large number. Very nice to see the numbers swelling up for a very interesting topic today. And my attempt would be to take you through this huge journey of Abrahamic religion. The reason why and what is the bone of contention for amongst these three Abrahamic religions, and how these faith or the person's belief can drive you to such unimaginable actions. Today's topic is primarily meant to let you understand the present state of affairs that we all are living in. And it's not necessary for us to look at it from the peripheral point of view. The attempt here is to take you to the root cause of this present situation, and probably leave it to you for you to analyze the whole thing. Leave it to you for a better guesswork. Leave it to you for a better opinion on this. As I always say, that awareness creates appreciation, and appreciation stops abuse or prevents abuse. And this is the whole idea behind this entire talk. So let me share my screen, and I would like to take the confirmation from the people. Chetan, can you see my screen?
Yes, we can see.
Can you hear me properly? So we are set to go. Okay?
Yes.
Okay. So it is this topic, and I have very purposefully named it the fork, and you will realize why have I named it a fork. The tagline here is the forked minds, the fathomless faith, and the divine promise. Many of us have not neither indulged in understanding the other faiths and the other religions. I'm not blaming, or I'm not making a comment which is to demean somebody who has not gotten into it. But out of interest, I have scanned through these holy books. And I have picked up only the relevant references and the liners over there, which are mentioned in these holy books. And you will find those references in my entire presentation. Incidentally, those are verbatim references. So there is no interpretation that I am deriving out of it. However, every faith has a different interpretation of the same statement that has been made in various books. And those very various books are books of God. So, to begin with, for our better understanding, everybody knows Bible. Everybody has heard about Bible, may or may not have read it. Everybody knows Quran, may or may not have read it. Everybody is aware of Torah. I do not know if Torah is a religious writing of the Jews. And how does that come out of it? So these are the three basic documents that we are going to refer to, only the relevant part, not, and various skirting reference to all these things. So before Bible came into picture, or before Bible was written, or before even Quran was written, whatever was existing text as a guideline from the God has been documented in Old Testament. समझने का प्रयत्न करा. Old Testament एक cluster of documents आणि त्याच्यानंतर offshoots वेगवेगळे धर्म निघाले आणि त्या प्रत्येक धर्मांनी आपापली पुस्तकं पब्लिश केली. समजण्याचा प्रयत्न करा. The first document or documents rather would be considered as Old Testament, which is also known as Torah. Over a period of time, there is a bifurcation and somebody starts and proposes a given faith, and the set of people sit together and put their heads together on yet another document, which is Bible. Over a period of time, there is yet another bifurcation. Set of people sit together and start documenting certain beliefs, which is known as Quran. As I go by, you will understand, but I need to make this as a premises on which we are going to work on. So, sorry, can you? So just for your information, the entire focal point of this presentation, the entire focal point of this entire presentation is a small little dot, and I call it as a critical area. If you have been to Israel, just give me a thumbs up in whichever form that you can. And if you have never been to Israel, it is my earnest appeal to you that you should go to Israel as a part and parcel of your bucket list. So what I'm talking about is a small little dot that can constitute Israel. Israel is a very small country. And in Israel also, there is a yet another small dot, which is called Jerusalem. And the whole thing starts and ends there. You will realize it by the end of the day. So this is the critical area. And this critical area is in the Middle East. And why Middle East for an Indian? For a person staying in India, it is West. Yet, it was the English who ruled the world at the time, and they determined the terms, and they determined the names and the nomenclature of various regions. So to them, if Japan was Far East, something before that was Middle East. त्यामुळे आपण देखील त्या रिजनला मिडल ईस्टच म्हणतो. जरी आपल्याला ते वेस्ट असलं, आपण म्हणजे मी मराठी आपल्या मुंबईमधनं म्हणतो तुम्हाला, भारतातल्या लोकांमध्ये. So somehow or the other, these terms have been evolved by the British, and we have somehow carried it on, and we have followed it. Nothing wrong about it. I'm not getting into the controversy of that. But yes, what does Middle East constitute? Middle East constitutes 17 nations and has an estimated population of 450 people. And the entire story starts from here. Let me just take you back to the Middle East. You can see Iraq out here. Can you? Okay. And can you see these two rivers going this way? Everybody, Sagyani Hatari, Nakkich Shabda Aiklasi, this term is very prevalent and people must have heard this term, Mesopotamia. Mesopotamia. Mesopotamia is nothing else but a geographical term used for the land which is between two rivers. In Hindi or in India, it is called Doab. In Hindi or in India, it is known as Doab. In Marathi, it is known as Antarved. ज्याला अब्दाली अंतर्वेदातून परत नर्मदा क्रॉस करून दिल्लीच्या आणि पानिपतच्या मध्ये उभा राहिला त्याला तो जो टर्म यूज केलाय that is nothing else but Doab or Mesopotamia. It is the Mesopotamia that is created in India between the land of two rivers, Yamuna and Ganga, and here we are talking about Euphrates and Tigris. So it is said that these areas, or this area rather, are responsible for the birth of 16 civilizations. The 16 early civilizations began here. And so on and so forth started here. Now, there is a small civilization or a place called Ur, U-R, which is today's Basra, which is in Iraq. So what happened to Ur? This is today's Basra, and this is Mesopotamia. And if you wanted to know the real reason I have given you, and the name that is being christened for this presentation is the fourth. And it evolves and it comes from here. The fork created by two rivers, Tigris and Euphrates. So well, Ur is a small little place that I have shown you here. So this is the place where a very highly evolved, wise person stayed, and his name was Abraham. Now, this is all biblical story. These are all Old Testament. This is also Quranic. And he was commanded by God. He got a dream, or he was commanded by God to leave Ur. What was he commanded by God? To leave his place with his family and his friends and his servants, and go in search of the promised land which has been promised by God. I'm repeating it again. There is this gentleman called Abraham who resides in Ur, which is today's modern day Basra, which is in the country called Iraq, is commanded by God that he should leave Ur with his family and friends and servants and go in search of promised land, because that promised land belongs to him and his children. So he takes the command seriously and he leaves Ur. Where is it mentioned? It is mentioned in Genesis 12:1 in the Torah. The Lord said to Abraham, it's verbatim, leave your country, your people, and your father's household and go to the land I will show you. So this is coming from Torah or the Old Testament. So this gentleman leaves with his family, with his servants, and a few animals and the cattle that he owned. And he also makes a contract with God. And he says, yes, if you say so, I leave. But if you say so, I look forward to that promised land as well. And he undertakes this journey between Ur and the promised land. And what is the promised land? The promised land today is somewhere in Jerusalem or somewhere in and around Israel. In fact, a cluster of countries. So the kind of journey that he had to undertake was more than 3,000 kilometers. Incidentally, I traveled this path. Genesis 12:7 says again to Abraham, and to your offsprings or to your seed, I will give this land. What does he say? That to your children or to your offspring or your seed. Seed means your children. I will give this land. On that day, Lord made a covenant with Abraham and said, to your descendants, I give this land from the river of Egypt to the great river Euphrates. From the river of Egypt, that is from Nile, to the great river, the Euphrates, the land which belonged to Canaanites, Hittites, Jebusites, and so on and so forth. These are little complicated words, but in other words, the earlier areas which was occupied by these tribes. In today's time, This land can be termed as Canaan, and today it is constituting a cluster of countries known as Jordan, Egypt, Syria, Lebanon, and Israel. I am taking you through this entire journey for you to build it up to understand the end of it. This was the divine promise. This was the divine promise. The Kadam's faith and the divine promise. This man starts with his journey along with his family, his servants, his cattle, and goes in search of this promised land, which has been promised by him, by God. And it is mentioned in the book of Genesis, which is a part of Old Testament, and I'm only reading it verbatim. No analysis here. So this is the first journey that he takes from Ur to a place called Haran. Now, Haran is in Turkey, and it is considered to be one of the oldest cities in the world. This is existing today as well. Now, probably you will make the whole sense of it. Abraham's Ur, which was on the banks of Euphrates, he leaves this place and goes in the search of promised land, and that is the one which you see is highlighted with the yellow color. I will show you the journey of this gentleman. This is the journey that Abraham takes. Abraham journeys from Ur to Haran, from Haran to Canaan, from Canaan to Egypt, Egypt to Beersheba, Beersheba to Hebron, and that's where he stops. It may sound a little complicated, but as we go by, it will be easy on you to understand. Journeys from Ur to Haran, Haran to Canaan, Canaan to Egypt, Egypt to Beersheba, and Beersheba to Hebron. NCG journey estate, it starts from here all the way to Haran. From Haran, he comes to Egypt all the way. From Egypt, he is made to return. I'll tell you the story, to Beersheba, and from Beersheba, he comes to Hebron, and that is where he dies. So on the way, ladies and gentlemen, he stopped at 17 different places and had skirmishes. Skirmishes are small battles. And he died when he was 175. Now, do not ask me or do not challenge me about the biological aspects of it. The man lived for 175. This is what is being mentioned in the Old Testament. So I'm not giving you my figment. He also sired a child at the age of 89 and 90 odd. So I'm not going to be answering those questions. How is it possible? But it's maybe he was a divine man. And that's how it started. So it took a long time before the Israelites could subdue the Canaanites. So it took a long time before they could subdue the Canaanite inhabitants. तिकडे राहणारी जी मंडळी होती त्यांना त्यांनी subdue केलं, and the actual land controlled by the Israelites fluctuated between people from Israelites or the people of Abraham and back to the other tribes. The point is that in the process, when he was trying to secure the land, he lost it, he gained it, he again lost it, he again regained it, and so on and so forth. Most important point that I'm making is yet to come. However, this is what you will take home. However, under the Jewish tradition, even when it is not in Jewish occupation, the land has not lost its status as a promised land. My friends, this statement that I'm making about the promised land is the crux of everything that you and me are going through. However, though that is not in the possession of the Jewish people, the Jewish tradition says it is not a Jewish occupation. The land has not lost its status as a promised land. आमचीच आहे का तर आम्हाला आमच्या देवाने सांगितलं की this belongs to you. संपलं, प्रश्न मिटला, बोलायचं नाही, विचारायचं नाही. Abraham leaves his Ur with his wife Sarah, त्याच्या बायकोचं नाव असतं Sarah, and servants, and follows the God's wish, and he wanders for the first 10 years until he goes to Haran. As it is said, Abraham was not in a position or could not get children from Sarah, who is his wife. Abraham, on his journey to seek the promised land, tries to get a child from his wife, Sarah, fails. So what does Sarah do? Not go well with today's time. Sarah says, this is my handmaid, my Egyptian handmaid, her name is Hagar. Please have a child through her. And Abraham has a child from Hagar. The name of the child is Ishmael. And Abraham at that point in time was 86 years old. Don't ask me questions. And God said to him, when he had his first child, Ishmael, from Hagar, not from his wife, he will make him fruitful. That is, Ishmael will make Abraham fruitful and will multiply exceedingly. 12 princes shall he beget, and I will make him a great nation. Listen to this carefully. It might sound a little bit off the beat, off the track, but it will get interesting as we go by in the next 5 minutes. This is the possible way when depiction of how Hagar got the child, and you can see Sarah overlooking the child and her husband. This is again a divine promise. And then he has a covenant which is with the God. Covenant means a contract. And in the contract, what does he say? The fact that you give me whatever it is, and the fact that I am your disciple and I really believe in you and I will follow you to the end of it, I will have a contract with you. And what will the contract be? I will ensure and I will show it in the form of circumcision of all my male tribes. So all the Jewish tradition requires the circumcision. And so does the Muslim tradition require circumcision of the child when he comes to the age, or maybe before that. He moves to Egypt. And because he deceives the Pharaoh in Egypt, he is asked to come back. Now understand, we are going from Ur to Haran to Egypt. He is asked to come back because he deceives the Pharaoh there, but I don't want to get into the story. The Pharaoh asks him to leave Egypt, so he comes back to a place called Beersheba, which is in today's Palestine. And from Beersheba, he goes to Hebron, which is again in today's Palestine, and he dies there. Okay. As we go by, as he comes back from Egypt, incidentally, he gets a child, a second child. And the second child, this time he gets it from his own wife. And her name is Sarah, as you know. And the name of the child here is Isaac. So by now, Abraham has got 2 children. One is Ishmael from Sarah, from Hagar, that is his handmaid of his wife. And the second one is Isaac from his real wife. His age is 19. Now, normal in every circumstances, even the gods and the godly people have not escaped this element and the emotion called jealousy. Jealousy sets in. And Sarah bhayankar rag yeto ya baika, matsar. Yare, he kon hai? Mi chuk keli, vagare vagare. And she says to Abraham, "Ye baila gharat mein hatun lag. Get her out of my house, along with her child Ishmael. And she will not, and your son will not be a part of the property, or whatever property that they had to inherit." And that is what she says. Get rid of the slave woman, for that slave woman's son will never share in the inheritance of my son Isaac. These are all quotations coming from the Old Testament. And Hagar leave in a place called Beersheba. She had only a small bread in her hand as a part of food and some little part of water. And this woman, along with her son Ishmael, is left alone in the desert by Abraham. This is what is written in Old Testament and also mentioned in Quran. It was a grievous proposition. Abraham only agreed when God told him that, "For in Isaac your seed shall be called." I'll explain that. And for he, that is Ismail, would make a nation of sons and of the bondwoman, female slave, since he was a descendant of Abraham. In other words, God promises that Isaac will be your real seed, And he also promises that Ishmael will make a nation for him, which is what you're looking for. Another divine promise. Now to test him, now to test Abraham, what does God do? He says, I would like to have a sacrifice made by you of your son. And Abraham is shown trying to sacrifice his son Isaac. But just when he's about to cut his neck, God sends a ram or a goat, and he eventually sacrifices the goat. हा जो प्रसंग आहे त्याला बाइंडिंग ऑफ आयझॅक असं म्हणतात. बाइंडिंग ऑफ आयझॅक, this is a scene which has been depicted in paintings by very, very renowned painters all over the world. And the binding of Isaac would mean nothing else but the child is bound on a given altar, and his father is just about to kill him, and the ram appears or a goat appears, and the goat is eventually killed. This हाच प्रसंग कुराण मध्ये ईद ए अदा ह्याच्यात नमूद केलेलं, फेस्टिवल ऑफ सॅक्रिफाइस, बकरी वगैरे वगैरे. Now the difference here is it is Abraham and not Abraham, and it is Ishmael and not Isaac. I'm just trying to put things together, juxtaposition them in such a fashion that you are able to make some sense of it. But everything, and as I promise you, will come together. So ह्याच प्रसंगाला कुराण मध्ये ईद ए अदा म्हणजे फेस्टिवल ऑफ सॅक्रिफाइस असं म्हटलं जातं, किंवा ग्रेटर ईद, बडी ईद म्हटलं जातं, वेअर यू हॅव this entire practice of sacrificing the goat or a ram as a part of God's sacrifice or a test of sacrifice for Abraham. And in Quran, he is not mentioned as Abraham, but he is known as Ibrahim. And it is not Isaac, which has been mentioned in the Old Testament, but it is Ishmael according to Quran. When he was doing it, according to Quran, the Quranic tradition, when he was doing it, it was Shaitan who comes and dissuades him. So he says, "Nahi, nahi, mala parikshit pass झालं पाहिजे, म्हणजे पहिली परीक्षा माझी." He tries to dissuade him. तर तो त्याला दगड मारून त्याला हातमून लावला. हा एक जो प्रसंग आहे. हा जी मंडळी हजला जातात, तर तिकडे ते एक लहानसा दगड घेतात. They take a pebble. It's a symbolic of it. आणि हा समोर जो दिसतोय तुम्हाला खांब, त्या खांबाला which is the shaitan, त्याला मारला जातो. So this is a very regular tradition which is also known as Rame e Zamarat, throwing of the Zamarat, or the places of the throwing of the pebbles. I'm trying to put things together. The mountains of Mora are now known as Jerusalem Hills. तुम्ही आता जेरुसलेमचा कधीही पिक्चर बघितलं तर तुम्हाला हा डोम दिसतो, हा गोल्डन डोम दिसतो. हा गोल्डन डोम म्हणजे नक्की काय? हा गोल्डन डोम is nothing else but Haram e Sharif, which is a part of the very important part of Muslims, extremely important part of Muslims. And this particular Haram e Sharif had a place or a masjid called Al-Aqsa. त्याच कंपाऊंड मध्ये आहे. आणि सगळ्यात सर्वात मोठी गोष्ट आणि ती म्हणजे त्याच ही मस्जिद कशावरती बांधलेली आहे? ही मस्जिद त्याच ऑल्टरवरती बांधलेली आहे की ज्या ऑल्टरवरती देवानी त्याची सत्व परीक्षा घेतली, कोणाची? इब्राहिमची, त्याच्या मुलाला मारण्याची. Look at the connectivity, establishing the connection. The small altar on which the child was bound and was about to be sacrificed, the God tested him there, that is Abraham. And according to Muslim tradition, it is Ibrahim. And that's altar Saudi Bhoti, a Haram e Sharif, or a noble sanctuary. He बांधलेली एक मस्जिद आहे, त्याच्या शेजारी आणखी एक मस्जिद आहे, ती तुम्हाला. आणि सरते शेवटी अब्राहम सगळं फिरून वगैरे वगैरे ज्याला हेब्रॉनला येतो, त्याला तो तिथे मरतो. That is how it is mentioned. And in Hebron, and I'll show where Hebron is, and in Hebron you can find his tomb. As a matter of fact, in Hebron you'll find the tombs of 3 patriarch pharaohs, And he dies at the age of 175. Biologically may not be possible, but it is mentioned. And this is Hebron as it looks like. You see, this is Israel. And Hebron जे आहे हे एका लहानशा cutout portion मध्ये आहे. And that cutout portion is known as West Bank. Everything will be clear by the end of the day. And in Hebron, which is a cutout, which is in West Bank area, which is the Palestinian area, you have the tombs of the three founding fathers of Judaism, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. I'll explain that to you. These are standing tall there. Incidentally, I've been there again. Isaac, जो त्याचा मुलगा असतो, कोणाचा मुलगा? Abraham. त्याचा मुलगा जेकब, जो याकूब म्हणून समजला जातो in Quranic tradition, and also known as Israel, moves his children to Egypt to avoid a severe famine in Canaan. Now, our friend Abraham has moved from Ur to Haran, Haran to Egypt, Egypt to Hebron finally, and he died over there. His son, Jacob, Isaac, who has a son called Jacob, moves out of that place again and goes to Egypt. Moves out of the place again and moves back to Egypt only to avoid the Dushkar which is happening in Canaan, which is the promised land. He goes to Egypt. Egypt मध्ये काय होतं? इजिप्तचा जो फेरो असतो तो त्यांना तिकडे बंदी बनवतो, त्यांना स्लेव्हरी मध्ये टाकतो आणि शेवटी त्यांची सुटका तिकडनं आणखी एक त्यांच्यातला जो प्रॉफिट असतो म्हणजे त्याचाच मुलगा जेकबचा ग्रँडसन मोजेस हा करतो. Everybody must have seen the 10 Commandments, which is one of the most famous movies which happened in the earlier times. This movie is all about how Moses rescues the Israelis from Egypt and brings them back to the promised land. And while he's doing that, he opens up the Red Sea. अख्खी जे तो प्रसंग दाखवलेला आहे त्या अख्खं पाणी असं डिवाइड होतं आणि मधनं जे मोजेस त्याच्या सगळ्या लोकांना घेऊन तो परत एकदा प्रॉमिस्ड लँड मध्ये येतो, which is again, if you want to know it, it is going to be Israel and Palestine. Okay, this is mentioned very, very vividly in a place in a book called Exodus. Now, हे जे Old Testament, which comprises of 5 books. So who wrote these 5 books? It is said that it is Moses who wrote these 5 books. The second book was Exodus. The first book was Genesis, which is where I quoted. So he makes a mention, this is nothing else but a diary of the entire travel plan of Abraham. Moses again dies on a different thing. This is Moses. And he gives this, and he shows his way from the Mount Sinai. That will also be shown to you. It is here in Egypt. Moses, one of the Jacob's grandson, was granted by God to write first 5 books of Old Testament. Which are these 5 books? Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, etc. This is what they look like. And now you will understand the whole story far better. And I'm preempting this now. This is God who gave some instructions to Abraham. Abraham is married to Hagar and Sarah. Hagar has a son called Ishmael. Sarah has a son known as Isaac. Ishmael, and in between, a lot of things happen. And Ismail leads to that clan of Muhammad, and Muhammad is the one who gets the messages from God, and he forms yet another faith and belief called Islam, and over a period of time a book is written, Quran. Sarah has Isaac. Over a period of time, finally it is David. Over a period of time, Jesus is born to a Jewish family Mary and Joseph, and Christianity. And David and त्याची वंशावळ Judaismला घेऊन पुढे निघून जातात. So the whole story, my friend, the whole story starts from Abraham and ends with three religions. One is Judaism, second is Christianity, and the third one is Islam. In other words, and in effect, all the three share the same blood of Abraham. And that is why they are known as Abrahamic religions. So what happened in Jerusalem? What happened in Jerusalem? When they come back, when Moses leads the whole clan of Israelites, आतापर्यंत ख्रिश्चॅनिटी जन्माला आलेली नाही आणि आतापर्यंत इस्लामही जन्माला आलेली नाही. आतापर्यंत फक्त मोझेसचीच अब्राहिमची जर्नी चालू आहे. मोझेस यांना परत एकदा इजिप्तहून इस्रायल सारख्या ठिकाणी घेऊन येतो, इस्रायलच्या रिजन मध्ये घेऊन येतो आणि they finally settled down in the promised land. This is the first time that the Israelites for the first time settled down in their promised land, and Shaul was declared the first king of Israel. It was followed by David, and it was also followed by Solomon, who built the first temple of the Jews. The kingdom of Israel was divided, followed by wars, and the Jews were exiled to Babylon, and they returned back. After they returned back, the second temple was built by King Herod. I'm giving it to you in a very, very succinct manner. And the story goes on. So let me recap the whole thing for you before you get confused. Abraham, commanded by God, goes to Haran, etc., etc., goes to Egypt, comes back. He gets two sons, one son from his maid, who is known as Ishmael. One son is known as Isaac. Ishmael and his mother, that is Hagar, are asked to leave the household out of jealousy, and the poor lady with the child goes out in the desert, and Abraham and his sons continue with their own journey. They go to Egypt, come back, go to Egypt again, and come back. This time finally they are led by Moses, who is again commanded by God to write 5 books. Those 5 books are known as Torah and also known as 10 Commandments. And when they settled down in the promised land, the first king who is declared as the king of Israel is Shaul, followed by David, then Solomon, and so on and so forth, till King Herod. ही 2 मंडळी सॉलोमन आणि हेरोड स्वतःची मंदिरं बांधतात. हे लक्षात ठेवा. आतापर्यंत ख्रिश्चॅनिटी आणि इस्लामचा जन्म झालेला नाही आहे. Now is the time of seed of Christianity. हे लक्षात घेणं अतिशय गरजेचं आहे आपल्याला की politics or power and religion has played an extremely important role in our lives. They always rule us. Intellect always take a backseat. Faith and beliefs takes a prominent role. And the people in power, howsoever intellectually challenged they could be, rule the roost. This is the today's situation. And it has been there ever since. It has been there ever since. As a result, power or politics and religion has always had people in their hands as puppets. So that I'm not going to get into the entire story as to what I think about it, but I'll give you the verbatim facts as to what was the situation at that point in time. So when King Herod was ruling, that is what I finally ended with, Rome was the power. Rome was the power. And this was the Roman occupied land. बदल्या काळाबद्दलची स्टोरी सांगत नाही, it will get complex. When Herod was ruling, Rome was in power. And Rome also had a complete control over a place called Jerusalem. And they had appointed their governor over there. The governor's name was Pontius Pilate. The question is, what was the role of these people? What is the role of these people, basically? Why are they there? So Pontius Pilate, who was the power at that point in time, which was the religion? The religion was the Judaism. Christianity has not been born yet. Islam is yet to come. And Romans never followed any religion. So when Israel was under the Roman rule, before the death of King Herod, Pontius Pilate was in charge of that region called Israel or Palestine. So Jews were threatened by somebody who started some new sermons saying that I am Son of God and please listen to me. Christ was born during that time. And त्याला काहीतरी एक vision मिळते, as a result of which he claims himself to be the Son of God, that his Father is in heaven. And he says that please listen to what I'm trying to say. This is the practice that you should for betterment of your life. The moment he starts preaching such good things, which are not as punitive, Jews, which is an existing religion, feels threatened. They connive with the existing power of politics, which is Rome. They arrest Christ and he is put to death. And the death is nothing else but Christianity, but crucifixion. And out comes the followers of that who call themselves Christians. Asaha Christian Dharmata Janmazan. There was, so in other words, Christ was born in a Jewish family. Christ was born in a Jewish family. He was born to a couple called Joseph and Mary. He was raised in Nazareth. He was born in Bethlehem, and he was crucified in Jerusalem. And he gave his first sermons on the Sea of Galilee, which is still existing there. Nobody accepted him, especially the resistance came from the existing religious people, and they were Jews. So they plotted against him to get rid of him by plotting it against him along with the power which was existing then, and which was the power, Roman power. So it was Prefect Pilate who ordered his crucifixion. The time when he died was close to 35 years. The possession of the land was promised to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Jewish people. The similar promise is found in the New Testament. The similar promise is found in the New Testament. परत एकदा promise चा प्रश्न आलाय. Jesus said that blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. The word for earth can be the promised land. It took almost 300 years before Christianity was an accepted faith. Ladies and gentlemen, it is extremely important for me to tell you this, that how faith can move hearts and how faith can move people. It took almost 300 years. ह्याच्या मरणानंतर 300 वर्षानंतर ख्रिश्चनिटीला एक ऍडमिशन मिळालं ह्या जगामध्ये. आणि हे ऍडमिशन कसं मिळालं? Only because the existing power, and which was the existing power? The power was Rome, accepted Christianity. The moment the world power accepted Christianity, Christianity spread like wildfire. Only that, ladies and gentlemen, it was Rome who offered a piece of land which is known today as Vatican City to be the seat of Christianity. And for you to know more about power and politics, ask yourself, and I want you to mull over it. The seat of Christianity is in Vatican. I'm sure some of you must have gone to Vatican. That is where the Pope sits. That is where the Pope sits. Christ was born in Bethlehem. Everybody knows that. Christ was raised in Nazareth, so he is known as Jesus of Nazareth. And Christ was crucified in Jerusalem. Who is the true founder of Christian faith? It is Christ. And who is the one who practices and who is the head of this faith in the today's world? Pope. Pope sits in Vatican, and everything about Christ, his birth, his youth, and his death happened in today's Israel and West Bank. But for your information, let's not get that. Not a single pope in the last 2,000 years visited any of these three places. You need to go over it and think about it. That is power, politics, and religion. So up until the time, till Constantine accepted Christianity, Christianity was not a recognized religion. And when he recognized it, because it was a power, Christianity spread like wildfire. Now, an example, I'm sure many of you have gone to Rome. Many of you have seen the Roman Forum, you've seen the gladiators place where they have, what do you call it? I forget that. On the tip of my tongue. But not many people would have seen something called catacombs of Rome. And I'm taking you to the catacombs of Rome only to prove a point that how faith can move people. Only to prove a point as to how faith can move people. The lady is Domitilla, who was the wife of Flavius Clement. She was banished to the island of Pontia for declaring herself as Christian. Christianity was not accepted by Romans initially because they had no religion, and anything which was being put onto them was abhorred or was resisted. As a result, the people who were practicing Christianity were not allowed to practice Christianity in open. Now, the faith demands that when the person dies, he has to be buried. त्याला आपल्याला पुरायचं असतं त्या faithच्या प्रमाणे. Whereas Romans used to cremate like the Hindus do. तर तुम्हाला जर कोणाचं दफन करायचं असेल तर तुम्हाला वरती आलं पाहिजे आणि मग ते खड्डे खडा वगैरे वगैरे, which could not be done because you could be prosecuted. मग ही मंडळी रोमच्या हद्दीच्या बाहेर जाऊन खाली खोल खड्डा खणून, खोल म्हणजे जवळजवळ 100 फूट खोल खड्डा खणून साईडला त्यांनी असे टनेल्स करून त्यांनी त्यांची थडगी केली. ही अशी थडगी झाली. दीज आर कॉल्ड द कॅटॅकोम्स ऑफ रोम. किती कॅटॅकोम्स आहेत तिकडे? 60हून जास्त. थडगी किती आहेत? लाखो. त्याची लेंथ आणि ब्रेथ किती आहेत? मल्टिपल किलोमीटर्स. फेथ विश्वास. मला माझी फेथ कायम करायची आणि कायम ठेवायची. तर हे जी तुम्हाला दिसत आहेत साईडला, दीज आर द थडगी. When Rome was looted by the barbarians, these graves were excavated and they looted the riches inside that. The point is that up until time that Christianity was resisted by Rome, they had to secretly, surreptitiously do these activities. And this is a great activity, amazing activity. I've been to a couple of catacombs. A very important catacomb is Catacomb of Domitilla. It is named by that lady I showed you, who was the sister of one of the emperors and who accepted Christianity. And she was the one considered as a saint in that place. आतमध्ये अशी भुयारा आहे, किलोमीटर लॉंग, की तुम्हाला कळणार पण नाही आपण जातोय कुठे, because you cannot go on your own, so you have to be going with a father or a padri or a priest who takes you around. The point is not the भुयार, and they are वेडी वाकडी आहेत, काही प्लॅनिंग नाहीये. तर लोक हरवलेली आहेत, लोक मेलेत तिथे, कळलं का? त्यामुळे जर कधी तुम्ही गेलात रोमला तर तुम्ही बाकीच्या गोष्टी तर बघालच, स्पॅनिश स्टेप्स आणि वगैरे वगैरे, परंतु हे पाहायला विसरू नका, कॅटॅकोम्स ऑफ रोम अजिबात न विसरता जा तुम्ही या ठिकाणी. Especially the catacomb of Domitilla. It is 16 meters deep. असं खाली जाऊन मग साईडला भुयारे त्यांनी बांधलेली वेगवेगळ्या पद्धतीने. आणि त्यांच्या त्या पर्टिक्युलर कॅटॅकोम्ब मध्ये 26,000हून जास्त ग्रेव्स आहेत. अशी 60 कॅटॅकोम्ब होती. ज्यावेळेला असं म्हणतात की ज्याला शेतकरी ज्याला नांगर करत असतो त्याला ते असे आतमध्ये घुसत असत, कारण देर वॉज अ पोकळी बिलो द अपर लाईन. सो नाउ लेट अस कट टू बेरशेबा. बेरशेबा मध्ये ह्या बाईला आपण हाकलवली. I'm coming to the present day. When she was asked to leave, तिला कळलं नाही की मला एका माझ्या नवऱ्याने बाहेर का काढलं घराच्या. नंतर तिला कळलं की तिच्या सौतीने तिला सांगितलं की तू घराच्या बाहेर जा. So she called out to her husband. He says, "Why are you leaving us here?" Abraham did not reply for the first 2 times. She repeated her question, "Did God command you to do this?" These are all things which I'm coming from Genesis. Abraham stopped, turned around, looked back and said, "Yes." She responded, "If that is the case, God will provide for us." तर तसंच असेल तर मग देव माझं रक्षण करेल. आणि त्याच बीर शेवा नावाच्या जागेत she is with her son and she leaves that son at a distance because she did not want to see him die. वणवण फिरत होती तिकडे, पाण्याचा काही थेंब नव्हता. आणि बिकॉज ऑल दीज पीपल आर डिवाइन, ह्या माणसाचे एक पाय लागतो एका ठिकाणी आणि तिकडनं एक आहे की पाण्याचा उगम, मोठ्या प्रमाणामध्ये पाण्याचा उगम होतो. आणि ती मोठमोठ्याने ओरडायला लागते, थांबव थांबव, हे पाणी थांबव. इन हर झॉम झॉम. He says Zom Zom. It is today's Zamzam, the holy water of Zamzam. Ishmael है, लक्षात घ्या. He is going to ultimately produce or be the beginner. I mean, he is not the one who starts it, but he is the one who is going to lay the seeds of Quran and Islam. So त्यांचे beliefs वेगळे आहेत. Writing जरी एक असली तरी beliefs त्यांचे वेगळे. And this is what the well looks like in Mecca today. ही पूर्वीचा फोटो आहे त्याचा, आणि हा आता वरचा आहे तो हल्लीचा फोटो. Birth of Islam. थोडक्यात, Muhammad was born 570 CE. He was born to a given tribe, were the guardians of Kaaba. His first revelation came when he was 40 years old. Revelations म्हणजे त्याला गॅब्रियल एंजलने सांगितलं कानामध्ये की नक्की काय आहे काय नाही काय नाही. त्यावेळेला polytheistic religions were on. Polytheistic म्हणजे multiple gods, having multiple gods. प्रत्येक ट्राईबचा एक गॉड असायचा, प्रत्येक ट्राईबचा एक नवीन देव असायचा. त्याला ते पटत नव्हतं आणि त्यांनी सांगितलं एकच देव आहे. तो ज्यावेळेला ह्या पद्धतीच्या गप्पा मारायला लागल्या त्याच्या अगेन्स्ट सगळी मंडळी गेली. त्याला मक्का सोडून मदिनाला जायला लागली आणि मदिनाहून परत he spread his message. People started believing in him. He gathered his forces, attacked Mecca, and then he established himself in Mecca, and he the one considered to be the one who is the founder of Islam. So when was Islam formed? Close to 600 to 700 years later than Christianity was. So सुरुवातीला मी तुम्हाला सांगितलं की सुरुवात फक्त जुडायझमनी झाली, मग फक्त बायफर्केशन ख्रिश्चनिटी मध्ये झालं. पहिल्यांदा Christ was born as a Jew. He started Christianity. He was crucified in Jerusalem. Then, over a period of time, somebody called Muhammad started getting revelations, and he spread the word of God in the name of Quran. He was disturbed by the polytheistic paganism, and he went ahead and sought a change. He faces strong opposition in Mecca. He leaves Mecca, goes to Medina, and he comes back. So when he leaves Mecca, that is the beginning of the Islamic year. हे मुद्दाम तुम्हाला सांगतो, कदाचित तुम्हाला थोडंसं कॉम्प्लेक्स वाटत असेल, परंतु हे कळण्याची गरज तुम्हाला एवढा करताय की these are the things, how things have been not perceived, but the fact of life. Okay. आणि तिकडनं ह्या माणसाला ह्याच्या रिव्हिलेशन्स होत होत्या, त्याला एके रात्री एक स्वप्न पडलं. त्या स्वप्नामध्ये त्याला काय दिसलं? He dreamt that he was riding a mythical steed or a mythical horse called Al-Buraq. He was riding a mythical steed or a mythical horse called Al-Buraq, and he goes to some far-off place, riding that horse, and he taps on a given altar or a given stone and reaches the 7 heavens. And he comes back. Now, which was that stone or the rock? Same rock. It is an altar for sacrifice. Look at the faith. कसे ते एकमेकांशी कॉम्प्लेक्सिटीज मध्ये आलेले आहेत बघा. This rock and the rock dome of rock again is in Jerusalem. So what did you see? Solomon and Herod built a temple for Jews in Jerusalem. The person who started Christianity was crucified in Jerusalem. Muhammad dreamt of going to 7 heavens by tapping on a rock which is in Jerusalem, and a mosque is made over there. Look at the faith. Look at the importance of every faith, and every faith has been told that there is a promised land for you. And everybody wants to claim that promised land. That's the best part of it. That's the best part of it. And then when he dreams that, Muhammad, let me bring you back to Muhammad. He says, henceforth, whenever you want to pray in the direction of Al-Aqsa, which means that Al-Aqsa would be the direction where you will face before you pray. Up until that time, he had not occupied Mecca. Okay? Al-Aqsa Mosque was built on the noble sanctuary. So, whenever you pray by putting yourself directing towards Al-Aqsa. And that is known as, in Islamic terms, Qibla for a Salala. तुम्हाला जर पाया पडायचा असेल तुमच्या देवाला तर अशा ठिकाणी तोंड करा की जिथे Al-Aqsa ही mosque आहे. So that is known as Qibla, the direction, and Salala or Salat or 5, that is called 5-time prayer. It is as important as Mecca, because the moment Mecca came into picture and Kaaba came into picture, the Salala and the Qibla is towards Kaaba. Understand how important it is for an Islamic believer that Al-Aqsa, the farthest mosque which resides at the moment in Jerusalem, was as important as Mecca. And it is still. You can see that dome. You can see that dome. All in Jerusalem. This is the dome. In Jerusalem. Finally, 630 Mecca was conquered. First copy of Quran came close to 20 years after that. This happened. Close to 600 years after the Christ walked the earth. 600 वर्ष Christianity नंतर ह्याचा इस्लामचा जन्म झाला. आणि now if you remember की 700 सालामध्ये पहिला जो हल्ला झाला भारतामध्ये तो गुजरातमध्ये झाला आणि तो सिंधवरती झाला. आणि गौरी आणि गजनी जी पहिली मंडळी आली त्यांचा एकच हेतू होता, तो कन्व्हर्जनचा होता, बेसिकली लुटमार नंतर. आता आपण थोडीशी गप्पा ज्यूज आणि रोमन बद्दल बोलूया. मी तुम्हाला बऱ्याचशा गोष्टी झिगझॅग करतोय, परंतु तुम्हाला बाय द एंड ऑफ द डे एव्हरीथिंग विल करतो. ज्या वेळेला ख्रिश्चनिटी म्हणजे क्राइस्टचा त्यांनी नायनाट केला, बिचाराला काढून टाकला तिकडनं, बट देवर पीपल हू आर प्रॅक्टिसिंग ख्रिश्चनिटी. त्यावेळेला तिकडे धर्म कुठला होता? ज्यूंचा होता. आता ह्या घटनेला आपल्याकडे 2 धर्म जन्माला आले आहेत सध्या. One is Judaism and the other one is practicing Christians who were practicing it in secret. Openly नव्हतं. 300 वर्ष लागले. क्राइस्ट गेल्यानंतर ख्रिश्चनिटीला व्हॅलिडिटी मिळण्याकरता 300 वर्ष लागली, आणि ती व्हॅलिडिटी तेव्हाच मिळाली ज्याला द वर्ल्ड पॉवर कॉल्ड रोम एक्सेप्टेड ख्रिश्चनिटी. तोपर्यंत मिळत नव्हतं. तोपर्यंत त्यांचे हे जे काय कॅटोकम्सच्या प्रकार वगैरे चालू होते ते चालू होते. हे लक्षात घेण्यासारखी गोष्ट आहे. माणसाचा ज्याला विश्वास असतो त्या विश्वासाकरता माणूस काय काय करू शकतो. त्याला रोमन्स तिथे होते आणि ज्यूज होते, ज्याला क्राइस्टचा मृत्यू झाला त्याला, आणि त्यानंतर बरेच वर्ष ते राहिले. रोमन्स आणि ज्यूजचं काही पटलं. रोमन्स आणि ज्यूजचं काही पटलं नाही, तर त्यांनी ज्यूंची हत्या केली, बऱ्या प्रमाणात हत्या केली. त्यांची जी काही मंदिरं होती, म्हणजे टेम्पल ऑफ हेरॉड वगैरे जी होती, ती त्यांनी तोडून काढली. आणि हे बघा, तो तोडलेला आहे. आणि साधारणपणे 70 CE, म्हणजे क्राइस्ट गेल्यानंतर 70 वर्ष, क्राइस्ट गेल्यानंतर 70 वर्ष त्यांनी ज्यूंची हकालपट्टी केली. काय केली? त्या प्रॉमिस्ड लँड मधनं त्यांची हकालपट्टी केली. ज्यूंनी बराच झगडा केला, परंतु ते रोमन पॉवरच्या समोर टिकू शकले. त्यांची हकालपट्टी. हे डिस्ट्रक्शन ऑफ ज्यूइश टेम्पल्स इन जेरुसलेम. हकालपट्टी केल्यामुळे हे ज्यूज सर्वत्र पसरले गेले, सर्वत्र पसरले, सर्वत्र. दिस इज नोन एज ज्यूइश डायस्पोरा. हे जे ज्यूज युरोपमध्ये, आफ्रिकेमध्ये, रशियामध्ये जे पसरले गेले, अमेरिका जन्माला आली नव्हती तोपर्यंत, दिस इज नोन एज ज्यूइश डायस्पोरा. एकही ज्यू त्या प्रॉमिस्ड लँड मध्ये टिकला नाही, म्हणण्यापेक्षा टिकू दिला नाही. शेवटचे 1000 एक ज्यूज होते, त्यांनी एक मसाडा नावाचा त्यांचा एक किल्ला आहे, त्या किल्ल्यावरती आश्रय घेतले. मसाडा, तुम्ही जाल कधी तर मसाडावरती नक्की जा. मसाडा ओव्हरलुक्स डेड सी. आणि त्यांनी तिकडे शेवटचा फायनल शेल्टर घेतला. आणि ते तिकडनं जे काही त्यांचा झगडा चालू होता तो चालू होता, आणि रोमन्स त्यांच्या मागावरती होते. 960 टू बी व्हेरी प्रिसाइज ही मंडळी त्या मसाडावरती होती. आणि शेवटी 2 वर्ष लागली रोमन्सना तो मसाडा ताब्यात घेण्याकरता. 2 वर्ष. त्या 2 वर्षानंतर त्यांनी एक मोठा रॅम्प बांधला. या 2 वर्षात रॅम्प बांधला, कारण तो अतिशय कठीण किल्ला आहे. त्याच्यावरती चढून जाण्याकरता अतिशय गरम असतो. म्हणजे मी स्वतः गेलो होतो त्यावेळेला इट वॉज 52 डिग्रीज आणि यू कुड नॉट मॅनेज इट. खरी गोष्ट. तर दिस इज वेअर दे चेज देम अँड दे टुक ओव्हर मसाडा. 960 लोक मेली, त्यांनी स्वतःचा म्हणजे आत्मदहन केलं स्वतः. आणि रोमन्स फायनली टुक ओव्हर द होल ऑफ द प्रॉमिस्ड लँड. होल ऑफ द प्रॉमिस्ड लँड. They also destroyed the Jewish temple in Jerusalem. Destroyed it, leaving behind a small little portion, my friend, long small portion of the wall. The second temple of Herod is also destroyed. Only a small portion of land of the second temple remained. And that place is known, that wall is known as the Wailing Wall. की जिकडे जगातला सर्व जीव जाऊन तिकडे प्रार्थना करतात आजही. अँड दॅट वेलिंग वॉल इज इन जेरुसलेम. लक्षात घ्या, वी आर टॉकिंग अबाउट 3 धर्म हु हॅव बीन प्रॉमिस्ड द सेम प्लेस अँड हॅव गॉट प्लेसेस ऑफ इम्पॉर्टन्स अँड रिलिजियस इम्पॉर्टन्स इन द सेम प्लेस विदिन द पेरिफेरी ऑफ 1 square kilometer. The Jews were exiled out of their promised land for good. That was the faithful moment. एकही जीव त्या तिथे राहिला नाही. This is Masada. This is the Masada. तुम्हाला ही जी पांढरा दिसते का तिकडे पांढरं, near ramp made by the Romans to climb and capture Masada. This is the same ramp that you can see from here. Dead Sea. डेड सीच्या पलीकडे गेलात की जॉर्डन, लेफ्टला गेलात तर जेरिको, विच इज द ओल्डेस्ट सिटी इन द वर्ल्ड. इट्स एन अमेझिंग साइट. प्लीज, व्हाय एम आय अगेन अँड अगेन टेलिंग एव्हरीबॉडी that once, if you can manage it and afford it, make it as a bucket list to go visit. Don't go to Israel before reading something about Israel. And this is the Jewish diaspora. सगळीकडे पसरले गेले. तुम्हाला कल्पना आहे का? नसेल तर सांगतो, त्याच सुमारास हेच ज्यूज त्याच भागातनं भारतात देखील आले. आणि कुठे आले असते? तर कोचीन मध्ये, मटन चेरीमध्ये. आणि आजही तुम्ही जर मटनचेरीला गेला तर तुम्हाला तिकडे सगळ्यात जुना सिनेगॉग बघायला मिळेल. आजही गेला, आजही गेला. They were made to leave their land, ladies and gentlemen, but they vowed to come back again to the promised land. पुन्हा मी परत येईन हा जो भाग आहे हे त्यांनी पुन्हा त्यांना सांगितलं. Because according to Jewish tradition, तुम्ही जरी तिथे राहत नसलात, and even if it is not your occupation, you still have a claim over that, as I said it in the earlier slide. After all, it was God's promise. Why only Jerusalem? It was the focal point of the three faiths, I told you several times, the point of contact, epicenter of three monotheistic religions, and the claim to the promised land. This area is just 0.9 square kilometers, old Jerusalem. This is what is in the modern day time that you will start understanding the whole story coming together. तुम्हाला दिसतंय का इकडे? Muhammad's night journey. Dome of rock, Wailing Wall, की जिथे ऐकण्यासारखी गोष्ट आहे. हे जे कंपाऊंड दिसते तुम्हाला, या कंपाऊंडच्या आतमध्ये टेम्पल ऑफ हेरॉड होतं एकेकाळी. ते पाडण्यात आलं आणि त्याच्यावरती ही मस्जिद बांधण्यात आलेली. जग जाहीर आहे, माहिती आहे सर्वांना. फक्त तुम्हाला त्या कंपाऊंडची लहानशी वॉल तिथे राहिलेली आहे. दिस इज कॉल्ड वेलिंग वॉल. ह्याच लहानशा भागामध्ये होली सेपल्कर नावाचा एक चर्च आहे. तिच्या चर्चमध्ये ते चर्च जिथे क्राइस्टला बळी दिला गेला होता त्याच्यावरती बांधलेलं हे चर्च आहे. त्यामुळे ह्या 1 स्क्वेअर किलोमीटरच्या जागेमध्ये तुम्हाला ख्रिश्चन फेथ, ज्यूइश फेथ अँड इस्लामिक फेथ जवळजवळ पाहायला मिळतं. हा जो रस्ता दिसतोय, रूट ऑफ द क्राइस्ट असं समजलं जातं. क्राइस्टला तो क्रॉस घेऊन 2000 फूट लांब रस्त्यावर चालावं लागलं आणि त्या रस्त्याला म्हणतात विया डोलारोसा. दिस इज द प्लेस which is the eye of the storm. Okay, the cross section of it. Via Dolorosa. Point is very important, sir. की इथे सर्वांना माहिती आहे की ह्याच्या खाली आमचं मंदिर होतं आणि ह्याच्या वरती एक अलक्सा नाव बांधली गेलेली आहे. माझी फक्त लहानशी भिंतच आहे तिथे. परंतु जेरुसलेम इस्रायलीच्या ताब्यात आहे. 2 मिनिटांमध्ये ती मॉस्क ते पाडू शकतात, पण ते पाडत नाहीयेत. त्यांना इश्यू करायचाच नाही. त्यांना इश्यू त्यांच्या डेव्हलपमेंटचा करायचा, त्यांना इश्यू त्यांच्या ऍग्रिकल्चरचा करायचा, त्यांचा इश्यू त्यांना सेटलमेंटचा करायचा. हे समथिंग I want you to mull over it. This is Via Dolorosa. This is the place where Christ walked. Christ was of sepulture. हे बघा, गोल्गोथा रॉक म्हणून आहे, तिथे याला बळी देण्यात आला होता. He was sacrificed here. And there is a church which is built around that, which is again a place which is visited. This is the Wailing Wall. Friends, this is the Wailing Wall. This is a small portion. The entire Jewish community all over the world goes there. All over the world goes. Only to this small portion do not make any claims about their Temple of Herod, Temple of Solomon. No claims. हे आहे ते आहे. आतमध्ये दिसतंय त्यांना एक मशीद आहे, अलक्सा. All the three faiths professing the promise by God. For the Jews, it is Jehovah. For the Christians, it is Jesus. And for the Muslim, it is Muhammad, the last prophet. They have the same promise and they have the same claims. Ladies and gentlemen, it was polarized. Divided amongst themselves, the Christians are subdivided with 41,000 subsects. Islam has subsects of 120 and Jews are divided by the area of migrations. For your information, the Jews which came to Mumbai for the development of Mumbai came from Baghdad, so they are known as Baghdadi Jews. So they are known as Baghdadi Jews. Now let me cut to 1917. We are coming to the modern day. We are coming to the modern day. In 1917, World War I was almost ending. I'm reading it verbatim for the first and the last time. Ottoman Empire had failed. France and Britain shared the spoil. Jews are dispersed all over the world. 2000 वर्ष झाली साधारण. Jews are dispersed all over the world. They have no land of their own. त्यांची कत्तल होते प्रत्येक देशामध्ये काही ना काहीतरी. Jews are dispersed all over the world. They have adopted to new local cultures. भारतामध्ये देखील कोकणामध्ये बरेचसे मराठी Jews आहेत. तुम्ही खाली गेलात तर तुम्हाला मल्याळी Jews बघायला मिळतील. It is almost 2000 years of exile. But Jews had progressed in all fields. They had progressed in art. They had progressed in science, business, politics, and many more. Their contribution to the world community is immense, hence hold a large political and financial influence. In तुमच्या आपल्या अमेरिकेमध्येच the Jews hold a huge amount of political and financial influence at this moment, at this very moment. And this is what is the turning point. Theodor Herzl, he is the man who writes a book, Old New Land, the Jewish State. And what does he do? In 1917, my friends, this man says, I want to go back to my promised land. How do you like that? That is promised to me by God. And I claim it. Give it back to me. And they hold a political and financial power and resources. This man is born in Hungary, and he does these writings and he spreads this message. When the Ottoman Empire refused Herzl's request, he goes to Great Britain. In 1917, which was a superpower, it was the Great Britain who had colonies all over the world. So the British government says, ठीक है बाबा, तू एवढं म्हणतोयस तर तू आम्हाला मदत करतोय. ज्यू लोकांनी आम्हाला भरपूर मदत केली. 6000 स्क्वेअर माईलचा एक जागा घेऊन टाका तुम्ही. म्हणतो नाही 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 नाही, मला कसं काय, आम्हाला जिथेच जायचं जिथे मी तिकडनं आम्हाला हाकलवलं होतं तिकडे. So later on ते म्हणतात, एक काम करा, आमच्याकडे युगांडा आहे, which is under British protectorate. Take it. It is 15,000 square. नाही, संबंधच येत नाही. We want to go back to Palestine. पॅलेस्टाईन मधली परिस्थिती काय आहे? हजारो लाखो अरब्स तिथे 2000 वर्षांपर्यंत राहतात. लक्षात घेण्यासारखी गोष्ट आहे, हजारो लाखो लोक तिथे अरब्स इस्लामिक 2000 वर्षाकरता राहतात. आणि तिथे हा माणूस मध्ये येतो, सर आर्थर बल्फर. And the most famous declaration in the history of the world is known as Balfour Declaration. He is the Foreign Secretary of Britain, and he, in his letter to one of the influential Jewish family called Rothschild, promises a land to him which was held by the Britain, because at that point in time it was Britain who had control over that, because it was under British control or British protectorate. He first offers Uganda, as he said it, then Palestine with Jerusalem. By then it was a home to millions of Arabs for almost 2000 years. But a promise is a promise. Now you will see the turning point of the whole story. And this is the letter which changed the world. And in fact it did. जर तुम्ही वाचाल तर तुम्हाला कळेल. मी वाचतो, पट करून वाचतो. This is to Lord Rothschild, November 2nd, 1917. I have much pleasure in conveying to you on behalf of His Majesty's government the following declaration of sympathy with Jewish Zionist aspirations, which has been submitted to and approved by the cabinet. His Majesty's government views with favor the establishment in Palestine of a national home for the Jewish people, and will use their best endeavor to facilitate the achievement of this objective. It being clearly understood that nothing shall be done which may prejudice the civil and the religious rights of the existing non-Jewish communities in Palestine, or the rights and the political status enjoyed by the Jews in any other country. I should be grateful if you would bring the declaration to the knowledge of the Zionist Federation. This is the nation. This is a letter which is a Balfour Declaration, and that is what changed the whole story. After that happened, Jews from all over the world started coming to that place slowly and steadily. Started migrating to that place slowly and steadily. माझे काही मित्र नंतरचं सांगतो, sometimes later on, and they started building up their number in Palestine. And on a given fateful day in 1917, when during the time when the World War I was being ended, this man enters and takes control of Palestine. What happens? The local Arab feels cheated. How can you promise somebody a land which belongs to us now? So they revolted. So the seed of modern day terrorism was sown on the day the general walked into the city on the 11th of December 1970. The Balfour Declaration was formally approved by the newly created League of Nations in 1922. In 1975, the Jewish population in Palestine was officially estimated at 108,000, and it rose to 238,000 in 1933. In 1939, 75 further immigrants came, and then there was a restriction on immigration. There was a restriction put by the Britishers on the immigration to Palestine of the Jews. However, the Jews revolted against the British. And so on and so forth. By that time, World War II began. Look at the fate. 1939, World War II began. And the worst thing that happened to the Jews during World War II, everybody knows the story of Holocaust. Everybody knows the story of 6 million Jews being put to death in Europe and in Russia. Everybody knows that. So there was a frantic effort of all the Jews to rush to the promised land, which was promised by the Balfour Declaration, and it was resisted. Now, to control and to counter the resistance, these terrorist organizations were formed. Stern Gang, Irgun, Ziva, Lumini, and all these terrorist activities. Who started these terrorist activities? The Jews. Against whom? The British and the Arabs, only to establish themselves in that place. At some point in time in 1947, when it was getting too difficult, they decided to internationalize Jerusalem. They decided to internationalize Jerusalem. Now we talk about justifying terrorism. Okay? And this is the beginning of the modern day terrorism. And I should be dwelling on that for the next 5 to 10 minutes. The beginning of the modern day terrorism. About 8 lakh Arabs, Lakshadya, about 8 lakh Arabs had fled or been expelled from the area which was their home. More than 50 years. After more than 50 years, ladies and gentlemen, the Zionist Congress, and more than 30 years after the Balfour Declaration, this happened. The Zionism has achieved its aim of establishing a Jewish state in Palestine. But at the same time, it became an armed camp surrounded by hostile Arab nations and the Palestinian organizations engaged in terrorism in and outside of Israel. For the next few years, terrorism was nurtured, pruned, and grafted into a mammoth tree with a strong trunk, numerous leaves, and eternal produce of fruits. Palestine was a playground. These were the terrorist activities which were followed by the Jews. Mossad at one point in time was an organization which smuggled in the Jewish immigrants. Irgun was another which was terrorizing the British who were staying there. The trigger, What was the trigger? End of the World War II. This was the trigger. This was the trigger. When there was an opposition coming from various quarters, Jews were being prosecuted all over Europe. Holocaust. 6 million Jews died. There was a great amount of activity in globe. Internationally, people started sympathizing with the Jews. And they said, yes, they deserve to be having their promised land because they can't be persecuted every now and then everywhere. And that was the trigger. Holocaust turned the table. Tremendous pressure from the world Jewry. Now understand this. The Jews had a complete political control over America and a financial control over America also. And at that point in time, in 1947-48, America was the big brother. And the birth of traumatic nation happened. British mandate on Palestine was to get over on 15th of May, 1948. David Ben-Gurion declared the state of Israel independent on 14th of May, 1948. So स्वतः जाऊन declare करून टाक 14 मेला. 1 May, 15 मेला, British control over Palestine was to get over. हा माणूस एकत्र करतो लोकांना आणि एक दिवस आधी 1948, close to the day when we got independent in India, he declares that this is a nation called Palestine. I must tell you this. In 1948, on 14th of May, when he declared independent, within a week's time, 6 Arab nations attacked the newly formed independent nation called Israel. Not only defeated the Arab nations, which were 6 in number, but occupied 50% of their land. However, Jordan takes East Jerusalem. British troops by then withdraw. This is what I call it as a birth of a nation, but a traumatic delivery. And this is corpus separatum. What is the meaning of corpus separatum? We are almost coming to the end of it. Corpus separatum, my friends, would mean that you have a separate control, you have a separate status, it doesn't belong to any country, and it is determined by United Nations organization. So, Jerusalem is a corpus separatum, a region or a city which is given a special legal and a political status, different from its environment, but which shall fall short of being sovereign or an independent city-state. I want to tell you 2-3 things. You can see here Bethlehem. Can you see Bethlehem here? Which is in West Bank. Now, people must be wondering what is the meaning of West Bank. This is the river which goes from Golan Heights down south. And that river is called Jordan River. Anything west of the Jordan River, and hence it is known as West Bank. At the moment, the Palestinians or the Arabs have been settled out here because officially the country was partitioned, much against the wish and the will of the Arabs. Okay? And this is where Bethlehem is. So Bethlehem of Christ's place of birth of Christ is in Palestine, which is Palestinian occupation or in Arab occupation, and Hebron, which is the place where all the 3 patriarchs have been having their grave, is in West Bank. So when you have to go to Bethlehem, you really have to take permission before you go there. And here you see Dead Sea and Jericho, which is the oldest city. And here you see Jerusalem, which has been actually surrounded by West Bank. This is the situation prevailing as of now. However, Jerusalem, according to the Hebrew, Bayt al-Muqaddas, according to Arabs, is the ancient city of the Middle East that since 1967 been wholly under the rule of State of Israel. But despite it being declared to be a separate status or a corpus separatum, Jerusalem still belongs, and they have still not left the control, and that is Israel has not left control of Jerusalem. To them, it is the most important part. And this is what I want to show you, the reason for the modern day terrorism. Before Jewish occupation, before actually the state of Israel was declared in 1946. What you see here is white things is what was occupied by the Jewish people. And the green thing was the Arab land. In 1947, according to the UN plan, they divided the country into two parts. One was Palestine, and the white thing was Jewish. And in 1967, when there was a war, they took over much more. And in 2020, they took over much more. You can see the depleting colors of Arabs. You can see the depleting colors of Arabs. And Jerusalem still remains where it is. This is 67 occupation. They took over Gaza Strip. They took over Egypt, Sinai. They took over the West Bank. They took over the Golan Heights. This is what it looks like. But effectively today, the whole of that region is occupied by Israel because promise is a promise. Balfour Declaration made the difference. Now is the rise of PLO, Hezbollah, Black September, Abu Nidal, Al-Fatah. The list goes on, my friends, only because they want to claim what has been unjustified by the world at them. And that is how they consider Americans to be the people behind this entire story. Because they're supporting it. In 1967, Osama inherits the father's wealth, declares jihad, war to protect the faith. Suicide bombing is nothing new, my friends. Several examples of sacrificing of land is almost happening. This is PLO. This is Al-Qaeda. And it takes roots. And it is on and on and on. The bone of contention remains. Through all these years, my friends, the small piece of 0.9 square kilometers of land remains the main bone of contention. The site promises the biblical prophecies and the coming of Messianic age. Incidentally, all the hopeful share the same blood, the blood of Abraham, and the followers, and the followers, and the followers. This is the Egyptian president being killed on the Republic Day. The army just came out and killed him straight. This is a follow. And this, of course, is a follow. You all know that, no need to explain. And this is what David Ben-Gurion said. The admission. When he took over as the first prime minister of Israel, he says, if I were to be an Arab leader, what does he say? If I were to be an Arab leader, I would never sign an agreement with Israel. If I were to be an Arab leader, I would never sign an agreement with Israel. It is normal. We have taken their country. It is true that God has promised it to us. But how could that matter to them? Our God is not their God. I read it again for your information. If I were to be an Arab leader, I would never sign an agreement with Israel. It is normal. We have taken their country. It is true that our God promised it to us. But how does that matter to them? Our God is not their God. Because finally he said, Masada should never follow me. सांगायचा हेतू हाच आहे की this was the last bastion of the Jews. And today also when the recruit is recruited and inducted in the Israeli army, he goes on the top of Masada and he takes a vow and he says, Masada will never fall again. It's a great amount of self-talk that has actually brainwashed every person in Israel, which calls for tremendous amount of resilience, tremendous amount of grit, and tremendous amount of determination, which is what is known as survival of the fittest. Yet the legacy, the birthright of the promise has not ended. Hence with the folk minds, it is divided minds, and the fathomless faith, brothers bathe brothers with blood. Om Shanti. Thank you very much. Any questions? It is rather a long presentation, but I have covered up for everything. Yes.
Amazing.
लांब आहे, पण I want to complete it. बोलो.
Yet another one. You have given so many beautiful presentations to us, Jankarji, and I think this is like extremely. I got the goosebumps when you showed some of the pictures, and the story is very, very thrilling, chilling, and drilling. So I think this is really, I think one can probably read more about the Israel and all the Christianity and Islam, and but in modern day we still face the challenges due to the terrorism and hatred, and it's really incredible.
Thank you.
Yep. Thank you so much. It was a great presentation. Damle Kaka.
I can see one letter. I mean, why Jews are called Zionists. Vaishali विचारलेला प्रश्न आहे हा. Vaishali, there is a mount called Zion. There's a mount called Zion in Israel. And this particular name or the term comes from Zion, which is a mountain rather, small mountain. म्हणजे तसं आपल्यासारखा mountain नाहीये. Basically, it's a small hillock which is known as mount. And it comes from there, basically. The believers in that faith were considered to be settled below the Mount Zion, आणि म्हणूनच त्यांना ते Zionists म्हटलं. Zionism. Caesar बोला.
Very good presentation, but it should be two part. One is the religious part, and second is the modern day political part, and which you have done very well. But as it showed that promised land, concept of the promised land led to the violence, intolerance, and bloodbath. And that call against that in Hindu, yes, Kashi, any holy places, but never consider as a promised land or never advocate any bloodbath. Mahabharata war is different in Kashi or other holy places, number one. Number two, Hindu philosophy advocate from individual to the Vasudeva Kutumbakam, which you won't see the concept, individual family, yes, among the Abraham religion, but not among the furthermore about the world as a family. But consider world, God has given the right to conquer the world. So that make a very distinction between the Abrahamic or non-Abrahamic philosophy or Hindu philosophy. That is one. My question that when you mention about Torah, Jewish God, Yehovah, what I read also, as being a student of history master program, when Jewish God Yehovah order, when after conquer of the village, non-believer village east of the Jordan River, Yehovah order to kill all male people from newly born child to the old sick person. And that is the seed of the intolerance of other faith or other school of thought. That is my point. But among the Jewish, there are three groups called Orthodox, Conservative, and Liberal. If you know that when that come into existence, just like a Christianity also, so many groups like after Renaissance come up. But these three groups pop up among the Jewish people. And one thing, the Jewish people, there's a racial difference between the Jewish people, Egyptian people, and Roman people. So this is the thing I would like to, just to add more information, what I studied. And as you write, Jesus was Jew. He was crucified because he claimed to be Messiah of Christ. And according to when the Jewish religion was under the control of Roman Empire, Jewish people look for the Christ who give the military victory and establish the Jewish kingdom. But Jesus promised only the spiritual way or like that. Now, and that's why when the three people, two criminals and Jesus was arrested, even the Roman governor was not ready to crucify. But under the pressure from the Orthodox, I don't know whether Orthodox Jew or fundamentalist Jew, or they asked, no, crucify him. And they pardoned two criminals who killed the people, murdered the people. And that created a gap between the Jewish people and the Christian people. Yes, and among the, it's interesting to know about what happened to 12 follow Jesus Christ. Nobody knows. But the follower of Jesus Christ in Egypt, which is known as Coptic Christian. And one of the group, they came to India, Coptic Christian, what we call as Malabar Christian. And after the crucifixion, 32 or 60 years of crucifixion of Jesus Christ, Saint Paul, who was a critic of Jesus Christ, became an ardent Christian. And he established Greek Orthodox Church. And then he moved to the Rome. But Christians were persecuted. And as you rightly mentioned, Constantinople, for the sake of the maintaining the power, he converted into Christianity and all the, that thing. That is the correct thing. Another thing would like to draw your attention, all the viewers' attention. Muhammad, the prophet, Muhammad Paigambar, he born Qurayshi family, and in Makkah there was 365 idols to be worshipped. And when, according to Professor Romila Thapar of JNU University, she came to Chicago and she gave the talk, and she said, when Muhammad conquered Makkah, he demolished 364 idols. One was one day before taken away and brought to Somnath, according to her theory. But my point is that Muhammad was, yes, advocated only one God, Allah, nothing else. And then he was forced, because of that, he was forced to migrate to what called Hajr, to Medina. And there he did a compromise with the Jewish people and other tribe people. And once he get a power, he declared the civil war with the Jewish people and established his own kingdom. So Islam in Makkah and Islam after Medina is two different shapes. And that created about the same thing about just like a Christianity or only Judaism never claimed to the worldwide conquer. But among the Christianity, the Jesus say, go all over the places and make the people follower of the belief of a God. Jesus never claimed to be God. Jesus claimed to be Son of God. But apart from that, same thing is Islam. Make whole world, Allah given the word, make transfer into the Muslim country, Islamic country. That is happened. That is history. And among the Christianity also, just as I say, Coptic Christian, Greek Orthodox Christian, another subgroup is Russian Orthodox Christian, then the Roman Catholic Christian. There are so many subgroups among the Roman Catholic, then Protestant. There are so many Protestant denominations. And then after the Renaissance, so many liberal Christian. Same thing happened in the Jewish people. When they migrate all over, they were forced to migrate to all over the country and accepted. The Jewish government accepted. the Israeli government accepted Jewish were
Sridhar Sahib, I have explained that to you, rather mentioned it to you, that there are subsects 14,120. These are subsequent beliefs and practices which have been brought about by somebody or the other. We don't want to get there at the moment. I was basically wanting to give you the fundamental outline of the whole story. Yes, there are various complexities which come into it, but let me just answer one more question which has been fielded. Somebody, if you have any question, I would like to ask you that. आहे का आपल्याला विचारायचं?
आम्ही ते टाकलेले आहेत questions chat.
Let me talk to Sridhar. तुम्हाला एक प्रश्न असा काय असेल तर सांगा मला.
माझा प्रश्न आहे की तुम्ही जे डिस्क्रिप्शन केलं Zionist movement, one somebody revolutionary is other terrorist, and the way you presented look like when somebody occupies the country for thousands of years, next year in Jerusalem, no country win the freedom without armed revolution, and in the one part of armed revolution is the revolutionary activity. So way they described about your presentation look like a poor Muslim, because when the Jews started coming after 1916 to Jerusalem, they were attacked by Maulavi from Mufti from Jerusalem, openly advocate to attack the Jewish people for the self-defense and for the establishment of the Jewish nation. It's a war. It's with a civil war or the so calling them terrorists, I think you are too harsh.
Accepted. Gammat ashi hai ki then we cannot call 9/11 as an act of terrorism. That's one thing, because then there is a cause and they are justified with that cause. The point is that eventually when we see that the objective is achieved by a lot of mayhem and the loss of life, is where the whole term of terrorism comes into picture. There is no sympathy factor which is even mentioned remotely as far as this is concerned about the Jews. It is only the fact that they claimed their promised land and they got it because they were influential in politics and in financial aspects. And some big brothers like England and Americans were supporting that entire story. And they could twist the arms of the local Arabs and they got them out of it. And naturally, you would expect them to revolt in some form or the other, which we today would be calling it as act of terrorism. So it is not the justification by the end of the day. It is only to putting the facts in front of you. The whole idea is to, because many people are not aware of the complexities of it, so I'm trying to put it in a very simpler form. There are a few questions which I would like to field.
I'll just add one, the definition by FBI.
Paganism. Padmakar, Padmakar, you said what is paganism? Wasn't that the religion Romans followed? Paganism is no religion to begin with. People who do not really follow any god, religion or practices are known as pagans. So Romans followed no religion, and so they were known as pagans. So you cannot call them atheists, or they are not non-believers. Roman did have something which are God of love, God of this, whatever, but then they practices not. I mean, codified religion. Anki Kai, if you're talking about amazing presentation, do you know Muhammad Parensa? Why no Pope has visited? Honestly speaking, Anuradha Damle. Anuradha, are you there? Can I see you?
Aniruddha Damle.
Aniruddha Damle.
Who is Anuradha?
Aniruddha Damle.
Aniruddha Damle. I'm so sorry. My can prove that. Aniruddha, can I see? Aniruddha, तुझा तिकडे जो प्रश्न आहे की no Pope has visited either Jerusalem or Bethlehem or Nazareth. हा प्रश्न सगळ्या जगाला अजूनपर्यंत सुटलेला नाहीये. आणि there are various reasons which are always mandated, and many attempts have been made by the Pope to visit because there are several popes by now which have happened. पण अजूनपर्यंत तरी कोणी गेल्याचं रेकॉर्डेड हिस्ट्रीमध्ये नाहीये तिकडे. त्याच्या भूमिका कदाचित
मला त्याला पुढचा प्रश्न हा आहे की विदिन द क्रिश्चियनिटी फॉलोअर्स ऍटलिस्ट त्या फॉलोअर्स मध्ये क्राइस्टच्या हे जे स्थान आहे त्यांना घेऊन म्हणजे डू दे लुक ॲट दोज प्लेसेस अँड व्हिजिट दोज प्लेसेस विथ लव्ह अँड फेथ?
हो, नाही मी फक्त तुम्हाला पोपचंच म्हणालो. परंतु जर तुम्ही उद्या जेरुसलेमला गेलात तर तुम्हाला भरपूर ख्रिश्चन मंडळी त्या सेपुल्कर चर्चमध्ये मिळतील. तुम्हाला भरपूर मंडळी बाय टेकिंग परमिशन दे गो टू बेथलेहेम बिकॉज तुम्हाला अरब परमिशन घ्यायला लागते. अर्थात नॅझरेथ इज व्हेरी क्लोज टू सी ऑफ गॅलिली. तिकडे तर तुम्ही जाऊ शकता इफ यू हॅव अ इस्रायली पासपोर्ट, आय मीन इस्रायली विजा. आणखी एक गोष्ट अशी आहे की बिकॉज ऑफ द ट्रिमेंडस एनिमॉसिटी अगेन्स्ट द अरब्स ऑफ द इस्रायलीज, Aniruddha, most of the time the Israeli visa is stamped to you and given to you on a paper which is attached to the passport, and then when you finish the visit of Israel you can take it off. कारण जर तो जर विजा तुम्हाला तुमच्या पासपोर्टवरती मिळाला तर there is very high possibility that the Middle Eastern countries will not grant you any visa. So just giving you a small background. Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
that is true.
Just for a minute. Regarding the Pope, not to allow the Pope, not Pope visit to the Jerusalem, one condition was put, which I read in New York Times also. Even the Russian and Roman, Greek, Russian Orthodox Church, they say they want promise from the Pope not to convert people.
अच्छा, ओके. हा, तुम्ही बोला. तुमचं आयपॅड नाव काय आपलं?
अरुणा दाभोळकर.
अरुणा
दाभोळकर. नंतरची तुमचं खूपच छान प्रेझेंटेशन झालं आजचं. As you said, I had opportunity to visit Jerusalem couple of times. आणि ओल्ड सिटीला सुद्धा I've gone 3 times at least. आणि there were various guides who were with us and explained everything. तरी पण मला आजच प्रथमच हे सगळं खूप छान समजलं. कारण इट्स सो कॉम्प्लेक्स आणि पहिल्यांदाच तो प्रश्न असतो की तिन्ही रिलिजन्स इथे कसे आले म्हणून. आणि यू रिअली एक्सप्लेन्ड इट व्हेरी वेल. थँक्यू व्हेरी मच फॉर दॅट. आय हॅड ऑल्सो व्हिजिटेड मसाडा एक्सेट्रा. आणि फर्स्ट टाइम आय वेंट देअर and the Dead Sea and several sites in Israel. But first time I went there, I was like wondering, why are people fighting for years and years over this desert? So I don't know why it is called Promised Land, but that's the history also.
The Promised Land is a land promised by the God, and it is mentioned and documented. हा, बोला तुम्ही. आयपॅड तुमचं नाव मला लक्षात नाही. नाव काय आपलं?
अरुणा दाभोळकर.
नाही, दोन्हीकडे आलात तुम्ही. अरुणा दाभोळकर. ओके, ठीक आहे.
मला एक प्रश्न आहे की कॅथॉलिसिझम मध्ये आपल्याला माहिती आहे की देर आर लॉट्स ऑफ डॉगमाज. तर तसे मग इस्लामिक म्हणजे मुस्लिम फेथ किंवा ज्युइश फेथ मध्ये पण काही डॉगमाज आहेत का?
ज्युइश फेथ मध्ये डॉगमाज नाही आहेत. इस्लामिक फेथ मध्ये आहेत, पण व्हेरी कॉम्प्लेक्स. वैशाली बोलतात ना?
हो हो,
वैशाली. A kind of complexities will move into it, and it is best that we leave it at that by saying that there are subsects which is close to 120. For example, just a simple example I want to give you. There is a sect called Ahmadiyya. There is a sect called Ahmadiyya, which is prevailing all over the world, and they are extremely peace-loving Islamic people. Islam, it's a peace-loving segment of Islam. असं म्हटलं तर काय हरकत नाही. The Ahmadiyya as a faith is constitutionally derecognized as Islamic faith in Pakistan Constitution. Constitutionally derecognized as an Islamic faith by the constitution there. Why am I telling this is because I have a friend in Frankfurt whose name was Aurangzeb, and he started calling himself Zeb, Z-E-B. And he was the one who told me how they were persecuted in various countries and especially Pakistan, and they had to leave that country to save their lives. So he was staying in exile here by taking a political asylum in Germany.
नाही, पण मी डॉग्मा बद्दल बोलते. डॉग्मा म्हणजे नॉट डिफरंट सेक्ट्स. डॉग्मा म्हणजे ते म्हणतात ना, देर इज अ व्हर्जिन मेरी, सो द चाइल्ड बर्थ स्टील लेफ्ट मेरी अ व्हर्जिन. हा जो एक हे ऍक्सेप्टेड ट्रूथ असं ते म्हणतात. इट कॅनॉट बी चॅलेंज्ड. तर तसं तर तसं काही आहे का की ज्यूइश
इस्लाममध्ये एकच डॉग्मा आहे. इस्लाममध्ये एकच डॉग्मा आहे, जर तुम्हाला म्हणजे इफ इट इज अनचॅलेंजेबल, नो लॉजिक, नो रिझनिंग इन्व्हॉल्व, एकच डॉग्मा आहे, ते म्हणजे की दे कन्सिडर Muhammad to be the last prophet. And because he is the last prophet, every word that is being said by Muhammad cannot be changed. As a result of which, the personal law of Islam is non-dynamic. म्हणजे तुम्हाला चेंजेस करता येत नाही. पण असं आढळून पण आलेलं आहे की जरी आपल्या भारतामध्ये दे आर सिलेक्टिव्ह अबाउट द पर्सनल लॉज. काही काही ठिकाणी पर्सनल लॉज लागू करतात, काही ठिकाणी पर्सनल लॉज लागू करत नाही. फॉर एक्झाम्पल, तलाकवरती आता एवढे मोठा वादांग झाला भारतामध्ये, तुम्हाला माहिती असेलच. तलाक विल नॉट बी कन्सिडर्ड as a part of the personal law आणि the lady needs to be protected. परंतु तो सगळं झाल्याची गोष्ट वेगळी. पण जर if they want the implementation of the Islamic laws, then the Islamic law also says something about adultery, where you could be stoned to death, and when you have stolen something, your hand should be cut. मग ते तिकडे लागू कसं होत नाही, असं मग एक कुठेतरी सब्जेक्टिव्हिटी आहे. तर तो काय होतं की आपण जर अशा विषयात गेलो तर मग तो एक डिबेटमध्ये निघून जाईल. आपल्याला सध्याच्या परिस्थितीत काय आहे आणि काय नाही त्याच्याच वरती बोलतोय आपण.
No. I was just curious. I wasn't trying to start it. I have one more question. हा जरा जास्त काय म्हणतात त्याला, प्रॅग्मॅटिक आहे, फिलॉसॉफिक नाही. की बिकॉज हे सगळं डेझर्ट एरिया आहे आणि मोस्टली आफ्रिका एरिया आहे आणि इजिप्त मध्ये राहणारे लोक बरेचसे ब्राऊन किंवा ब्लॅक असतात. तर मग जीसस क्राइस्ट व्हाईट कसा काय झाला?
आय हॅव नो आन्सर फॉर इट. खरं बघायला गेलं तर, कारण मी परवाच एक लहानसा इंटरव्ह्यू बघितला होता मोहम्मद अली म्हणजे कॅशियस क्लेचा. तर तो तिच्या आईला विचारतो की सगळे गॉड्स व्हाईटच कसे होते, कळलं की नाही. तर त्यावेळेला राहणारी माणसं पण व्हाईट हाऊस मध्ये कशी राहतात वगैरे वगैरे अशी. तर त्याचा एक मजेशीर किस्सा होता. पण तुमच्या प्रश्नाचं उत्तर माझ्याकडे नाही, व्हाईट कसे झाले.
ओके, थँक्यू. खूप छान झाला, आवडलं मला. व्हेरी नाईसली डन. वी लर्नड अ लॉट.
जरा लांब होतं. श्रीधर काका जरा लांब होता, मला माफ करा त्या बाबतीत. पण मला असं वाटलं की ते एका ह्याच्यात करूया. अर्थात तुम्ही बघितलं असेलच त्याच्यामध्ये की मी 2 भागामध्ये त्याला त्याची विभागणी केली होती. पण नंतर ऑन सेकंड थॉट आय थॉट आय विल डू द होल थिंग देअर अँड देन, असं मला वाटलं होतं. Any more question? Ha, bola Madhav.
Jankarji, as usual, this presentation was also great and we really appreciate it. विशेष म्हणजे हे तिन्ही धर्म रक्तरंजित म्हणजे रक्तातनच कशी त्यांची निर्मिती झाली आहे हे वाचल्यानंतर किंवा तुमच्याकडनं ऐकल्यानंतर बऱ्याच वेळा आपण त्याच्यामध्ये असे एक प्रकारचं तुम्हाला एक कोडं पडतं की किती जर झालं 2000 वर्षापेक्षा ती लोक इतक्यापासून ते झगडतात किंवा हाणामारी करतात आणि एकमेकाचं रक्त काढण्यापाठीमागे त्यांचा उद्देश असतो. पण जर ख्रिश्चनिटीचं पाहिलं तर दे ऑफकोर्स इस्लाम ऑल्सो दे कॉल इट अ पीस लव्हिंग. ओके, आय एम नॉट हिअर कॉमेंटिंग ऑन एनी रिलिजन, बट is there hope that there will be a real peace or all those things?
Very difficult. That's why I left it to you. कारण हा जो झगडा आता आपण काश्मीर इश्यू वरती आपण किती वर्ष घालवली आणि आता ह्याच्या पुढे देखील तो कितपत सक्सेसफुल होईल की नाही आपल्याला माहित नाहीये. तर हा प्रकार तोच आहे. काही गोष्टी काही पॉलिटिक्समुळे झालेल्या असतात, काही सुपर पॉवरनी घडवून आणलेल्या असतात, त्यांना त्याचा फरक काहीच पडत नाही. तसं बघायला गेलं तर अमेरिकेमधली माणसं अमेरिकेत राहत आहेत, इंग्लंडमधली माणसं इंग्लंडमध्ये राहत आहेत, परंतु पॅलेस्टाईन मधला एखाद्या अरबाला काही जागा नाही आहे आणि दुसऱ्या ठिकाणी राहणाऱ्या ज्यू माणसाला कोणतरी मारते, तर ज्या माणसाला सफरिंग आहे त्यांना आहेच आहे, पण द पीपल आर लाईक पपेट्स इन द हँड्स ऑफ द बिग पॉवर मेनी अ टाइम्स. ते तुम्हाला लक्षात येईल आणि यू विल रिअलाइज दॅट वी प्ले इन टू द हँड्स ऑफ दिस पीपल. आणि त्यामुळे आणि परत त्याच्यामध्ये असं काहीतरी टीचिंग आहे त्याच्यामध्ये की आपलंच आहे, आपल्याला घेतलंच पाहिजे. अनफॉर्च्युनेटली काही धर्मांमध्ये एज्युकेशन आणि लिटरसी लेवल आणि इन्फॉर्मेशन लेवल फार कमी असल्यामुळे त्या धर्मातल्या लोकांना उत्तेजित करायला वेळ लागत नाही कोणाला. धर्मगुरू वगैरे येतो आणि काहीतरी सांगून निघून जातो आणि मग ती मंडळी सुटतात आणि काय काय गोष्टी अशा करतात की ज्या तुम्हाला जाणीवपूर्वक धोकेदायक असतात. आणि ते त्यांच्या दृष्टीने स्वतःचा बळी गेला असं समजलं जातं, हुतात्मा समजलं जातं त्यांच्या दृष्टीने, कारण त्यांच्या दृष्टीने ते आर राईट. पण हा मुळात झालेला जो प्रश्न आहे हा कोणी सुरू केला आणि केव्हा सुरू केला ह्याच्यात तुम्ही म्हणाल तेवढं कमी डिबेट होईल. पण मला फक्त तुमच्या पुढे हा नक्की प्रश्न काय आहे, फॅक्ट्स काय आहेत हे तुमच्या समोर ठेवायचं, बाकी काय.
आणि अतिशय सुंदर तऱ्हेने तुम्ही ते मांडलंय. नो, दॅट वॉज अ व्हेरी ब्युटिफुल अँड नाईस हिस्ट्री यू शोड.
हो हो, कारण हा अतिशय डिबेटेबल आणि सी द होल आयडिया ऑफ माय टॉकिंग टू इज नॉट टू डिसमिस एनी पर्टिक्युलर फेथ, कारण हा त्याच्यामधला हेतूच नाही. आणि असं जर करायला गेलो तर मग आपल्याला पुढची पावलंच घेता येणार. माय पॉइंट इज की ह्या फेथ अशा निर्माण झाले, त्यांचे बिलीफ्स असे होते आणि त्या बिलीफ्सना धरून जी मंडळी त्यांचे फॉलोअर्स होते त्यांनी काय काय केलं, जे कुठल्या शिगेला गेलं. तर तुम्हाला मी सांगितलं की रोममध्ये जर तुम्ही गेलात तर तुम्हाला त्या कॅटॅकॉम्स मध्ये जाल तर म्हणणार या माणसाला काय पडलंय एवढं. अहो लाखो थडगी आहेत त्या खाली, कित्येक किलोमीटर रन करतात ती कॅटॅकॉम्स, कित्येक किलोमीटर. मग तुम्ही हरवून जा. विदाउट गाईड यू कॅनॉट एंटर द कॅटॅकॉम्स. तुम्ही अवश्य जा, तुम्ही जरूर जा अशी माझी फार इच्छा आहे.
2 वर्षापूर्वी आम्ही तिथे गेलो होतो. ब्युटिफुल आहे, छोटा एरिया आहे पण ब्युटिफुल आहे. युरोपमध्ये गेलो होतो आम्ही 3 आठवडे. त्याच्यामध्ये एक दिवस आम्ही तिथं एक दिवस काढला आम्ही, 2 दिवस काढले ऍक्च्युली. व्हॅटिकन सिटी आणि सराउंडिंग एरिया तिथला सगळा भाग पाहिला. ब्युटिफुल एरिया आहे आणि ते तुम्ही जे आता डिस्क्राईब केलं तो पण भाग पाहिला. ते डिपेंड आणि कोण तुमचे गाईड आहे आणि किती तुम्हाला त्याची आवड आहे त्याप्रमाणे ते आपल्याला सांगतात. पण चांगला एरिया आहे, जरूर पहा डेफिनेटली.
नमस्कार जंकर साहेब, तुमचं प्रेझेंटेशन नेहमीप्रमाणेच उत्तम झालं. मी एवढं करताच थांबलो होतो, म्हटलं मला काही प्रश्न वगैरे काही नाही आहेत. पण मी पण गेलो होतो इस्रायलला आणि तो जो किल्ला आहे त्याच्या डेड सीच्या तिथला, त्याच्यावर पाण्याचं आयोजन इतकं फर्स्ट क्लास केलेलं होतं ते तुम्ही पाहिलं असेल म्हणजे. आणि मी 2 वेळा त्या येशू ख्रिस्ताला जिथं हे केलं शेवटी थडगं म्हणा किंवा काय ते खाली भुयारासारखं आहे तिथं पण जाऊन आलो 2 वेळा. चांगलं आहे म्हणजे एकंदर व्यवस्था चांगली आहे, पाहायला मिळतं.
Can I say something? Yeah. मी पण इस्रायलला गेले होते त्यावेळेला म्हणजे हे मसाडा वगैरे बघितलं सगळं. फार फार सुंदर 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 देश आहे. म्हणजे त्यांनी त्या देशाचं सोनं केलेलं आहे. वाळवंट असून देखील इतकं त्यांनी त्याच्यापासून सोनं काढलेलं आहे. तर मला त्यांचं खूप कौतुक वाटतं इस्रायलांचं, कारण ते एवढीशी छोटी लँड पण त्यांनी म्हणजे आजूबाजूच्यांनी त्यांच्याकडून शिकायला पाहिजे की काय तुम्ही करू शकता, असं इतकं मला वाटलं. पण दुसरी एक गोष्ट सांगायची म्हणजे तिथल्या त्या म्युझियम मध्ये मला टोराचे पीसेस पण सापडलेले त्यांनी छान जतन करून दाखवायला ठेवले होते. आणि दॅट्स क्वाईट थ्रिलिंग टू सी that what I had read all my life about Torah. I said, oh, actually I saw the piece, and that was quite thrilling, Yes.
आणखी एक म्हणजे आमचे एक्सटेंड दिस कॉन्व्हर्सेशन की डेड सी स्क्रॉल्स म्हणून ते मॅन्युस्क्रिप्ट त्यांना कुमरान नावाच्या गुहेत मिळालेले आहेत. बरेचसे म्हणजे ऍक्सिडेंटली मिळालेले आहेत. आणि basis which
Yeah.
been able to put many things together. And basis which it is quite possible that all these things that they talk about actually happened. As a part of evidence, we don't want to get there,
Yeah.
but those are very interesting read, which were found on the banks of Dead Sea again, but in the different hills or hillocks, which are known as Qumran caves,
Yeah.
But all those who have gone to Israel will always come home with an awe for that country. कारण त्या देशाने खरं ह्या जसं म्हणाले त्याप्रमाणे सोनं केलेलं आहे. एक लहानसा देश आणि सराउंडेड बाय होस्टाईल नेशन. ते किती बरोबर ह्यांनी बरोबर केलं का चुकीचं केलं हा प्रश्न सध्या आपण बाजूला जरी ठेवला तरी एका गोष्टीला आपल्याला मान्यता देणं गरजेचं आहे ते म्हणजे की दे हॅव मेड दॅट प्लेस एक्स्ट्रीमली प्रोडक्टिव्ह अँड दे हॅव मेड इट प्रोग्रेसिव्ह. हे नक्की तुम्हाला मान्य केलं पाहिजे. आणि त्यांचे शेजारचेच अरब देश म्हणजे इस्रायल आहे, आपलं जॉर्डन आहे, सिरिया आहे किंवा आणखी काही ते आहेत तसेच राहिलेले. ते धर्माचे इतके पडले ते आहेत तसेच राहिले. म्हणून मी तुम्हाला हा मुद्दा दिला की ह्यांच्याकडे ह्यांना माहिती आहे की ते हेरॉडनी बांधलेलं मंदिर आणि सॉलोमननी बांधलेलं मंदिर ह्याच्यावरती बांधलेली ही मशीद आहे आणि हा फक्त लहानसा जो भाग आहे भिंतीचा तोच काय तो राहिलेला आहे माझ्या त्या मंदिरांमधला. पण त्यांनी त्याचा इश्यू नाही केला. मला सांगितलं कारण दे डोंट वॉन्ट टू देअर एंटायर माइंड फ्रॉम द डेव्हलपमेंट. कारण जर त्यांनी तो जर इश्यू केला तर इट इज गोइंग टू बी एन इंटरनॅशनल इश्यू. हा साधा इश्यू होणार नाहीये हे त्यांच्या लक्षात आहे. इट्स गोइंग टू बी एन इंटरनॅशनल इश्यू. दे आर स्टेइंग अवे फ्रॉम दॅट अँड दे आर ओनली फोकसिंग ऑन देअर ओन डेव्हलपमेंट. अँड दिस इज समथिंग विच वी नीड टू गो होम लर्निंग. कळलं का?
And one thing bothered me was, if I may say something, that I could visit, म्हणजे मी कुठल्याही भागाला भेट देऊ शकत होते. तो विया डेलारोसा संबंध बघितला, नंतर ते चर्च जिथे त्याला हे म्हणजे त्याचे धडगं ठेवले आहे ते सगळ्या गोष्टी आपल्याला बघायला मिळतात. मसाडावरती जायला मिळतं, बेथलेहम मध्ये जायला मिळतं, नॅझरेथला तो वाढला तिकडे ते सगळं बघायला मिळतं. पण इफ आय वॉन्टेड टू गो टू सी the rock, below, I had to make an appointment, of course, but that dome आहे, permission नाही मला जायला. And it bothered me, why? It bothered me, because I would have liked to go inside, त्यांच्या धर्मात ती अलाउड नाहीये वाटते कोणाला दुसऱ्या धर्मियांना यायला.
आपल्याला मुंबईमध्ये काय कुठेही पारशी तुम्ही नसाल तर तुम्ही अग्यारीमध्ये जाऊ शकत नाही. तोच भाग झाला. दॅट इज वाय प्राऊड ऑफ माय रिलिजन वेअर आपण अतिशय ओपन आहोत. अतिशय ओपन. आपल्याला कुठलाच जास्तपणा नसतो. यू कॅन गो टू एनी फेथ. एनीबडी कॅन कम टू युअर फेथ. नोबडी विल बॉदर यू. दॅट ओपन टॉट बाय अस ओनली टू द वर्ल्ड.
Yeah, but excellent lecture by you. I enjoyed every word what you were talking. I was taking pictures of your slides, and it is something to really mull over later when I read it and put the pictures together. आणि मला असं वाटतं की सगळ्यांनी एकदा तरी इस्रायलला भेट द्यावी आणि हे ते सगळं बघावं. It's totally different experience वाटला मला तरी.
Yes.
पर्सनल लेवल डेड सी आणि बऱ्याच गोष्टी छान पण आहेत. पण इट्स समथिंग टू सी हाऊ द यंग 18-year-olds they spent 2 years of their young life being soldiers, and it's amazing. Boys, girls equally, it's because they have to be alert and they have to be defending themselves all the time. Such a proud look.
Mandatai, these videos are available on YouTube, so no need to take pictures. You have entire video.
Okay, मला माहिती नव्हतं ना, मी पटकन शेवटच्या आता फ्रायडे.
So we are always on YouTube live, and all these presentation, awesome
anyway,
presentation.
it doesn't.
They are available. You can read and understand again the whole thing. Namle kaka.
Oh.
बंद आहे तुमचा माईक बंद आहे.
म्यूट असेल.
तुमचा माईक म्यूट आहे काका.
I'm trying ओके.
आता बोला.
मराठीमध्ये इस्रायलवर अप्रतिम पुस्तक आहे, इस्रायल छळातनं बळाकडे, नाह पालकरांचं. इतकं उत्कृष्ट आहे की त्यांच्या नावाने इस्रायलमध्ये एक रस्त्याला त्यांचं नाव दिलंय. तर मी तुम्हाला सर्वांना सांगेन की ते पुस्तक अवश्य वाचा. इस्रायल छळातनं बळाकडे. तुम्ही ऐकलं असेल झंकरराव?
हो हो, नाही ऐकलं नाही, पण मी वाचेन नक्की. छळातनं बळाकडे
अवश्य वाचा. मराठीत आहे.
पण अशी दामले काकांनी कुठेतरी उल्लेख केला होता की ते इस्रायलमध्ये देखील थोडंसं आहे, जिकडनं येतो त्याच्यावरती अवलंबून असतं, असं काहीतरी त्यांनी मध्ये उल्लेख केला होता. आणि खरंय, माझे बरेचसे मित्र आहेत म्हणजे महाराष्ट्रीयन ज्यूज तिकडचे, तर ते नक्की सांगतात की थोडं डिस्क्रिमिनेशन आहे. एक अमेरिकन ज्यू असेल किंवा एक युरोपियन ज्यू असेल तर त्याच्यावरती त्याला एक वेगळ्या प्रकारे बघितलं जातं, आणि इतर देशातून आलेल्या ज्यूजकडे ज्यूज आहे, त्याच्यात त्या वाद नाही, परंतु थोडंसं डिस्क्रिमिनेशन आहे हे त्यांच्यात बोलण्यात मला आले होते. इनफॅक्ट तुम्हाला सांगण्यात मला बरं वाटेल की मी 2दा-3दा तिकडे गेलो होतो, आणि नंतर मी एक रोटेरियन असल्यामुळे मी तिथल्या रोटरी क्लबशी संपर्क साधला, आणि आपले मुंबईच्या शेजारी कर्जत जी जागा आहे त्या ठिकाणी 7 शेतकऱ्यांचा कंपू घेऊन एक टीम पाठवली होती. हायफा म्हणून एक जागा आहे तिकडे, त्या हायफाला, आणि त्यांनी तिकडे 1.5 महिना राहून तिकडचं ॲग्रोटेक्निक समजून घेतलं त्यांनी, आणि आता ते कर्जत भागामध्ये परत आलेले आहेत आणि ते ॲग्रोटेक्निक ते शिकवत आहेत. त्या तसल्या प्रकल्पाला म्हणतात VTT, म्हणजे व्होकेशनल ट्रेनिंग टीम्स. म्हणजे तुम्ही एखाद्या ठिकाणी वोकेशन समजून घ्यायचं आणि मग इथे आल्यावरती तेच वोकेशन आपल्या लोकांना समजावून सांगायचं, हा त्याच्या पाठचा भाग आहे. अतिशय सुंदर प्रकल्प आहे. अँड आय वॉज द वन हू ऍक्च्युली वॉज लीडिंग द होल शो. झालाच पद्धतशीरपणे. त्या शेतकऱ्यांना एकही पैसा खर्च न करता 1.5 महिना ते राहिले तिथे. पण अनफॉर्च्युनेटली इकडे परत एक इमोशनल अटॅचमेंट असते प्रत्येकाच्या जमिनीची. आता तिकडे तुम्ही जर किबुट्स वगैरे सारख्या ठिकाणी जाल इस्रायलला, तर तिकडे तुम्हाला एक कलेक्टिव्ह फार्मिंग असं बघायला मिळेल. म्हणजे कलेक्टिव्ह मोठ्या प्रमाणामध्ये होतं. म्हणजे अमेरिकेत देखील मी परवा आय वॉज ट्रॅव्हलिंग अँड आय सॉ फील्ड्स विच वर few thousand acres, एवढे मोठे मोठे होते. आणि आपल्या इकडचे आपल्याकडे जमीन भरपूर आहे, पण ती दुभागल्यामुळे प्रत्येक माणसाच्या हाती 1-1, 2-2, 3-3 एकर येतात, आणि ती परत आणखी डिवाइड होते. तर माझा फक्त एकच हेतू होता की तुम्ही सगळं एकत्र करा, एक गावाची जमीन ठेवा वगैरे वगैरे. पण ते कुठेतरी मान्यता मिळाली नसल्यामुळे तो प्रकल्प पद्धतशीरपणे जो करता आला असता तो होऊ शकला. ऍज अ रिझल्ट आपण ती शेती आणि शेतीची मालमत्ता कमर्शियलाइज करू शकत नाही. आतापुरतच फक्त त्याला जेवण मिळतं, संध्याकाळी वर्षभराची त्याची तांदळाची सोय होते वगैरे. पण टू कमर्शियलाइज दॅट यू नीड टू हॅव अ क्वांटम, यू नीड टू हॅव अ बल्क, यू नीड टू हॅव अ लार्जर आस्पेक्ट टू लुक ॲट इट. बोला दामलेकर.
तुम्ही जे आता बोलला त्याचं नाव कम्युन म्हणतात. इस्रायल मधलं जे कम्युन सिस्टीम आहे,
But they are dying now. They are not very.
पहिल्यांदा गरज होती कारण ते बहुत करत होते. आता ते वेगळ्या पद्धतीने पाहतात. हा बोला.
नाही, मला सांगायचं की किबुट्स सिस्टीम जी होती त्या सिस्टीम अभ्यास करण्याकरता 1951-52 मध्ये राष्ट्रसेवा दलाचे पुण्यातले सुभाष नगर मधले लोक गेली होती आणि त्यांनी तिथे ती अभ्यास केला होता. आणि विष्टेपासून शेती आणि थेंब थेंब पाणी गळे वाचवायचं हे त्याचा अभ्यास करून ती मांजरी म्हणून गाव आहे पुण्याजवळ, तिथे त्यांनी तो प्रयोग केला होता. सुभाष सहकारी शेती म्हणून प्रयत्न केला होता. पण इस्रायलमध्ये मराठी लोकांचं मराठी मंडळ आहे, त्यांचं मला वाटतं वार्षिक का दैवार्षिक निघतं लोकांचं. तर त्यांच्याकडनं शिकण्यासारखं चिकर आहे की तुम्ही मगाशी बोलला होता की ती छोट्या राष्ट्राने 3दा लढाई पराभव केला. 48 ला केला, 57 ला केला आणि 67 ला जेरुसलेम मुक्त केलं. आणि ते आता मला वाटतं यावर कधी ते ट्रम्प असताना अमेरिकेने अमेरिकन एम्बेसी जेरुसलेम मध्ये हलवली. नाहीतर ती पूर्वी दुसरी ठिकाणी होती त्यांच्या राजधानी. तर हे शिकण्यासारखं आहे. आणि हे महत्वाचं मला असं वाटतंय की हे जे सेमेटिक रिलिजन आहे, तुम्ही अब्राहम म्हणता, त्याला दुसरा शब्द आहे सेमेटिक रिलिजन. हे तुम्ही म्हणा आपले प्रॉमिस लँड कॉन्सन्ट्रेशन, आणि त्याचं दॅट लेड टू द इनटॉलरन्स अँड ब्लड बाथ. And as you say, law of jungle and survival of fittest. आणि इस्रायलचा शिक्षणाचा खर्च आणि आरोग्याचा खर्च अमेरिकन ज्यू करतात.
आहे कारण इस्रायल कम्प्लिटली वेरेवर दे आर, आणि बाय ग्रेस ऑफ गॉड दे आर व्हेरी वेल प्लेस्ड फायनान्शियली अँड पॉलिटिकली.
वंदनात आहे.
हा, त्यांचा हात वरती.
नमस्कार जंकारजी, खूपच छान झाला आजचा कार्यक्रम. मला प्रश्न एक आहे, हा चॅट मधलाच मी एक प्रश्न मला वाटतं राहिला आहे, जो मी आठवण करून देते. कोणीतरी विचारलंय की मोहम्मदचं इस्माईलशी काय रिलेशन आहे. मला इथे थोडं जरा कन्फ्युजन झालं की तुम्ही जे फॅमिली ट्री दाखवली त्याच्यामध्ये मोहम्मद कुठून आला आणि त्यांचं काय संबंध टू इस्माईल.
इस्माईल जसा आयझॅक
इस्माईल तुम्ही म्हणाला की तो हेगारचा मुलगा होता, त्या हँडमेडचा. हा, आणि मग पुढे मग ही इज द वन हू एस्टॅब्लिश्ड लेटर ऑन द इस्लामिक रिलिजन. तर मग मोहम्मद कोणीतरी व्यक्ती होता की इज इट कन्सिडर्ड गॉड? कोण आहे म्हणजे प्रॉफिट?
इस्माईल जो हेगारचा मुलगा होता आणि प्रजावळ आहे, त्याची जी प्रजावळ आहे ती लांब लचक आहे, त्याच्यात न गेलेलं बरं. आणि जे त्याची जी प्रजावळ आहे त्या प्रजावळीतला एक कुरियाश म्हणून त्याची जी एक ट्राईब होती तिकडे, त्याच्यामध्ये मोहम्मद जन्माला आला होता.
ओके ओके, अच्छा.
आणि तो जन्माला आला तर साधारणपणे 40व्या वर्षी तो एका गुहेत बसलेला असताना त्याला काहीतरी बोलते असं झालं. आणि जातं की तिकडे तो गॅब्रियल एंजल, कळलं का, ही वॉज मेसेज रिलेटिंग विच वॉज कमिंग फ्रॉम गॉड. आणि मग तो घाबरला आणि तो धावत असा बाहेर कावरा बावरा आला की बाबा काहीतरी वेगळंच चाललंय माझ्या आयुष्यात. आणि तो सांगायला लागला की लोकांना की मला अशा प्रकारचे मेसेजेस येत आहेत. त्याच्यातला एक मेसेज असा होता की हे तुमच्याकडे 300 जे तुमचे देव आहेत वेगवेगळ्या ट्राईब्सचे, तर ते न असता एकच देव आहे आणि आपल्याला ते एका देवाचंच फक्त जे काही नमन करायचं ते करायचं. अर्थात त्यावेळेची परिस्थिती वेगळी असल्यामुळे लोकांनी त्याला अपोज केलं आणि त्यानंतर त्याला बरेचसे असे मेसेजेस आले. आणि मोहम्मद वॉज जस्ट अ सिम्पल मॅन अँड ही गॉट मेसेजेस फ्रॉम गॉड अँड ॲज अ रिझल्ट ही गॉट द डिव्हिनिटी इन हिम. आणि म्हणून त्यांनी जसं सांगितलं की एकच देव, तसंच क्राइस्टनी पण त्याचं सांगितलं की एकच देव म्हणण्यापेक्षा माझा जो बाप आहे तो त्याचा मुलगा. आणि दॅट इज वाय दीज थ्री रिलिजन आर नोन एज मोनोथिएस्टिक रिलिजन. मोनोथिएस्टिक म्हणजे तर मोहम्मदचा उत्तर तुमचं असं आहे की इस्माईलची जी प्रजावळ आहे त्यातनं निघालेले जो त्या ट्राईब मधनं निघालेले कुरियाश ट्राईब मधला एक जो ग्रस्त होता त्याचं नाव मोहम्मद. आणि त्याला जे काय झालेलं आकलन होतं ते असं. भाग आहे, मधला जो भाग आहे ते कॉम्प्लिकेटेड होऊन जाईल तुम्हाला सांगायला गेलो. इट्स गुड इनफ टू जस्ट की इस्माईलच्या प्रजावळीतला एक जो माणूस होता त्यांनी इस्लामची सुरुवात केली असं.
ओके ओके.
आणि गंमत अशी आहे की या तिन्ही धर्माच्या धर्मग्रंथामध्ये ह्या सगळ्यांचा उल्लेख आहे. म्हणजे अब्राहिमला इब्राहिम म्हणतात, ते जेकबला याकूब म्हणतात, मोझेसला मुसा म्हणतात, असं काय ते. म्हणजे द ओल्ड टेस्टमेंट जे म्हणाले मगाशी म्हणाल्याप्रमाणे इट्स अ कॉमन थिंग. ओल्ड टेस्टमेंट इज कॉमन थिंग, मग त्याचे ऑफशूट्स म्हणजे बायबल आणि कुराण.
बरोबर.
कदाचित तुम्हाला सुरुवातीला ते एकदा लोकांच्या डोक्यात जात नाही, पण नंतर मग ज्यावेळेला अख्खा संपते त्यावेळेला तुम्हाला लक्षात येईल की हा सगळा प्रकार एकाच ठिकाणून निघाला. त्यामुळे सगळ्यांची कोण मानत नाही ह्यातला भागच नाहीये. आणि त्यांचे जे काही रीतिरिवाज त्योहार जे काय आहेत त्याच्याशी पण ते निगडीत येतात. तुम्हाला सांगितलं ईद ए अदा म्हणजे फेस्टिवल ऑफ सॅक्रिफाईस, तर ते कुठे झालं तर त्याची जी गोष्ट आहे ती गोष्ट इब्राहिमची पण गोष्ट तशीच आहे. कळलं की? त्यामुळे आय एम ओनली कोटिंग द थिंग कमिंग फ्रॉम व्हेरियस डॉक्युमेंट्स विदाउट पुटिंग माय माइंड टू इट.
करेक्ट. थँक्यू.
आणि महम्मद निरक्षर होता हे स्वतः महम्मद यांनी खुद्द सांगितलंय की तो निरक्षर होता, इलिटरेट होता. त्याला फक्त तो अतिशय सज्जन, म्हणजे जेव्हा तो व्यापारात ती बाई व्यापारी बाई होती तिच्याकडे तो अकाउंट आणि ते काम हे काम करायचा आणि सज्जन मनुष्य, आणि म्हणून ती मूर्ती जी अशी त्यांनी 15 वर्षांनी मोठी होती, लग्न झालं होतं, पण तो निरक्षर मनुष्य होता. असं फक्त एवढे की त्याला जे संदेश आले ते त्यांनी लोकांना सांगितले आणि त्याच्या मृत्यूनंतर ते संदेश लोकांनी पानावर लिहून काढले. पानावर लिहून काढले आणि त्यातली काही पानं खाल्ली असं शिया लोकांचा आरोप आहे. त्यामुळे कुराण हे कम्प्लीट नाहीये असं शिया लोकांचं म्हणणं आहे. हे मला बुखारी दिल्लीच्या जम्मा मशीदचे जे बुखारी आहेत शाही इमाम त्यांच्या चुलत भावाने मला सांगितलं. मी त्यांना विचारलं की शिया आणि सुन्नी मधला भांडणाचं काय कारण काय, म्हणजे बाकीचं कारण माहिती आहेत, अली आणि सगळ्या प्रकार माहिती आहे, करबेलाची लढाई, पण त्यांनी जे सांगितलं की ते महम्मदांनी जे सांगितलं होतं ते महम्मद गेल्यानंतर जवळ 35-40 वर्षानंतर आठवणी गोळा केल्या आणि त्या ताडपत्रीच्या पानावर लिहून काढल्या होत्या, कारण तिकडे कागद नव्हता आणि त्यातली काही पानं बकरीने खाल्ली. म्हणून शिया लोकांचं म्हणणं आहे की संपूर्ण सत्य, जसं आपल्याकडे वेद चोरीला गेली अपुरे म्हणतात, आणि तुम्ही मगाशी सांगितल्याप्रमाणे आपल्या इकडे जी पौराणिक कल्पना शर्मिष्ठा आणि देवयानी ययातीचं शर्मिष्ठा आणि देवयानीने शर्मिष्ठाला दासी म्हणून वागवलं, ती राजकन्या होती. ते सांगितल्याप्रमाणे हेगर आणि याच्या लागू होतं. ज्याला यांनी आपल्या मुलाला बळी द्यायचा प्रयत्न केला तर आपल्याकडे काही ठिकाणी नरबळीचा पण उल्लेख आहे, नरबळी. तर तुम्ही मगाशी जे डॉग्मा म्हणाला तर सर्व धर्मामध्ये सगळीकडे त्या काळाच्या परिस्थितीनुसार अंधश्रद्धा डॉग्मा म्हणा ते होतं, आणि ते इस्लाममध्ये चिकार आहे, ओल्ड टेस्टमेंट मध्ये आहे. ज्यांनी जर तोरा वाचला तर ओल्ड टेस्टमेंट मध्ये अशी भोळी बाबडी अंधश्रद्धा कल्पना चिकार आहे. आणि सर्वात उत्कृष्ट आणखी एक पुस्तक सांगतो तुम्हाला, तुम्ही वाचलं की मला माहिती नाही. यहुदी स्त्रिया आणि बायबल स्त्रिया या विषयावर सावरकरांचे लेख आहेत, आणि त्यात त्यांनी यहुदी धर्माचं म्हणजे ज्युइश धर्माचं आणि ख्रिश्चन धर्माचं, ऑफकोर्स इस्लामचं त्यांनी विवेचन केलेलं आहे. तर कधी मिळालं तुम्हाला तर यहुदी स्त्रिया आणि याच्या ख्रिश्चन स्त्रिया याच्यावर त्या सावरकरांचे लेख वाचनीय आहे.
झंकारजी, तुम्ही कुठली बुक्स सजेस्ट कराल ह्या विषयावरती? तुम्ही एक
मध्यंतरी पुस्तक दिलं होतं, ब्लड ऑफ इब्राहिम, हे सुंदर पुस्तक आहे. मग ते हल्लीच्या दृष्टीने केलेला एक विषय आहे. माझ्याकडे आणखी एक हिस्ट्री ऑफ मिडल ईस्ट म्हणून एक पुस्तक आहे. अधिक माय विजिट्स टू ऑल दिस प्लेसेस हॅव रिअली मेड मी मोर एक्सपिरियन्स द बिलीफ्स ऑफ द पीपल ओव्हर देअर. तर सांगायचं म्हणजे आणखी एक पुस्तक त्याच्यामध्ये ओ जेरुसलेम म्हणून एक पुस्तक आहे. ओ जेरुसलेम इज अ बुक रिटन बाय Dominic Lapierre and Larry Collins, the same two people who wrote Freedom at Midnight. Then you can even find a beautiful book. हे अर्थात एक गोष्टीच्या रूपात आहे, पण you can always find a lot of sense in that. Hajj, the name of the book is Hajj by Leon Uris. Exodus also is a book written by Leon. So these things put insight into the prevailing situation of Middle East. हा बोला.
मंदाताई. तुम्ही म्यूट वर आहे म्हणता ते.
बंद आहे तुमचं. तुमचा म्यूट आहे तुमचं. हा बोला. परत म्यूट झालं.
अनम्यूट करा म्हणता ते. बोला.
लिओन वॉज माय फेवरेट ऑथर माय यंगर एज. आणि खूप त्याची पुस्तकं वाचली होती. सो आय नो तुम्ही सांगितलेली पुस्तकं पण मी दोनदा वाचली होती. आणि लॉट टू लर्न अबाउट ज्यूइश फ्रॉम दॅट ऑथर.
कारण त्याच्यात जरी ते फिक्शनल असतील तरी तुम्हाला त्यावेळची परिस्थिती, लोकांचे माइंडसेट कळतात. आणि ओ जेरुसलेम हे पुस्तक अवश्य वाचा, तुम्हाला वाचण्यासारखं आहे. मला माहित नाही आपल्या इथे असलेली किती मंडळी आहेत की ज्यांनी फ्रीडम एट मिडनाईट हे पुस्तक वाचलेलं आहे. थोडंसं कॉन्ट्रोवर्शियल झालं पुढे सावरकरांच्या बाबतीत, परंतु ती कॉन्ट्रोवर्सी सोडली तर ह्या ठिकाणी म्हणजे एक फ्रेंच आणि एक अमेरिकन लेखक आहे, त्यांनी बराच रिसर्च करून लिहिलेलं पुस्तक आहे. आता तुम्ही म्हणाल की त्यांची काय गरज आहे तुम्हाला लिहायची. आपल्याकडे कोणी लिहिलंय का? म्हणजे आय डू नॉट रिअली हॅव एनीबडी टू टॉक अबाउट द फ्रीडम फ्रॉम द टाइम टिल द डे वेन वी रिअली गॉट फ्रीडम. अतिशय सुंदर लिहिलेलं पुस्तक आहे ते. येस, देर इज अ एलिमेंट ऑफ कॉन्ट्रोवर्सी ॲज आय ॲडमिट, पण द बुक इज ब्युटिफुल. ही दोन मंडळी जी आहेत त्यांनी हिस्टॉरिक फिक्शन्स लिहिलेली आहेत. आणि द हिस्टॉरिक फिक्शन्स आर बेस्ड ऑन द फॅक्ट्स अँड दे डू अ लॉट ऑफ रिसर्च अँड ओनली देन दे पुट पेन टू द पेपर. मग त्या रिसर्चमध्ये त्यांना बरोबर काय मिळतं काय नाही हा भाग वेगळा आहे. त्यांचं अतिशय आणखी एक पुस्तक आणि ते म्हणजे ईस्ट पॅरिस बर्निंग. ईस्ट पॅरिस बर्निंग इज रिगार्डिंग द वर्ल्ड वॉर II. आणि त्याला हिटलरनी असा संदेश दिलेला असतो त्याच्या कमांडंटला तिकडच्या, आता आपण हारतोय जवळजवळ, आपल्याला तिकडनं विड्रॉ करायचंय पॅरिसमधलं, तर तू पॅरिस निस्ताबून म्हणजे जस्ट डिस्ट्रॉय द डॅम थिंग. आणि तो करत नाही, शेवटपर्यंत करत नाही. त्याला 7 वेळा त्याचा फोन येतो. असं आतापर्यंतच्या इतिहासामध्ये हिटलरने दिलेली आज्ञा कोणी पाळत नाही असा हा एकमेव माणूस असतो. आणि तो 7 वेळा फोन करून देखील तो त्याला हो हो म्हणतो आणि काही करत नाही. त्याचं कारण एवढंच की पॅरिसची काही मान्यवर मंडळी त्याला जाऊन भेटतात, त्याला म्हणतात की बाबा रे, तू आता तुम्ही तर जिंकणार आहात, तुम्ही जिंकल्यानंतर केव्हा तरी परत तू तुझ्या आई वडिलांना मुलांना घेऊन येशील या पॅरिस शहरामध्ये, आणि ते काहीच दिसणार नाही परत त्या पॅरिसमध्ये. तू काय सांगणार की माझ्या ऑर्डरनी हे सगळं मी नासधूस केली त्याची. समथिंग ऑफ दॅट काइंड. आय एम जस्ट गिव्हिंग अ स्मॉल जिस्ट ऑफ इट. ॲज अ रिझल्ट पॅरिस remains intact what you see it today. But yes, very specific and explicit orders were given by Hitler to destroy Paris before the retreat of the German army there. So ही अशी पुस्तकं ह्या दोन मंडळींनी दिलेली अतिशय सुंदर पुस्तक आहे, डॉमिनिक लॅपियर आणि लॅरी कॉलिन्स. हा बोला श्रीधर.
त्या दोघांच्या बद्दल सांगायचं म्हणजे जसं आपल्या इकडे रणजित देसाईंनी श्रीमान योगी आणि स्वामी लिहिले आहे, तसं ही या दोघांची पुस्तकं वाचनीय, जरूर वाचनीय. पण मी तर म्हणतो रिझर्वेशन का, तर मी लेप्झिगला यांना भेटलो होतो आणि फार जुनी गोष्ट आहे. आणि मी त्यांना विचारलं की मी रिसर्च केलेला आहे, तुम्हाला ब्रिटिशांच्या सीआयडी मध्ये कुठे सावरकरांच्या बद्दल असं कुठे वाक्य नाही, तर हे तुम्ही कसं टाकलं. तेव्हा त्यांनी सांगितलं की नाही, मला कुणीतरी हिंदू महासभेच्या माणसाने सांगितलं. म्हणजे अशा ऐकीव गोष्टी लिहिलेलं ओ जेरुसलेम काय, ईस्ट पॅरिस बर्निंग काय, विथ ड्यू रिस्पेक्ट अतिशय उत्कृष्ट कादंबरी आहे. मी असे म्हणेन इतिहासावर आधारित कादंबरी आहे, वाचनीय आहे, जरूर वाचनीय आहे. पण थोडं रिझर्वेशन
ठेवायचं.
आणखीन एक इंटरेस्टिंग गोष्ट तुमच्या लक्षात आली की माहिती नाही, केमाल पाशानी जो टर्कीचा होता प्रमुख, मुस्लिम असून देखील त्यांनी पॅलेस्टाईनच्या प्रश्नामध्ये अजिबात लक्ष दिलं नाही. ही कीप हिमसेल्फ अलूक फ्रॉम द पॅलेस्टाईन इश्यू. आणि तुम्ही मगाशी म्हणाला की कुराणामध्ये हे होत नाही, माहिती करता तलाकमध्ये मोरोक्को आणि अल्जेरियामध्ये तलाकला अशी वर्बल तलाकला परवानगी नाहीये आणि एकपत्नी आहे. इजिप्त पाकिस्तानमध्ये पण त्यांनी कडक केलेलं आहे. तर मॉडिफिकेशन करता येतं फक्त इकडल्या भारतातल्या मुसलमानचं म्हणणं आहे की इस्लामिक कंट्रीला परवानगी आहे भारत काय इस्लामिक कंट्री नाही म्हणून भारताला परवानगी नाही.
बोला.
एक प्रश्न आहे. इस्लाम मध्ये खरोखरच मूर्तीपूजा करणाऱ्यांना त्यांची कत्तल करा असं लिहिलेलं आहे का कुराणामध्ये?
हो हो.
मी त्याचं तुम्हाला सूरा आणि आयत वगैरे सगळं पाठवतो ट्रान्सलेशन.
मी पण पाठवून देऊ शकतो की कारण मक्केमधले कुराणामधले मोहम्मदाला आलेले संदेश, मदिनामधले संदेश आणि मक्का जिंकल्यानंतर संदेश याच्यामध्ये पुष्कळ जमीन आसमानाचा फरक आहे. मक्केमध्ये संदेशामध्ये त्यांनी सांगितलंय की आपण एकत्र राहूया आणि त्याच्या आधारे मौलाना आझादांनी प्रयत्न भारतात केला होता की आपण देखील एकत्र राहूया. पण मक्का जिंकल्यानंतरचे जे संदेश आहेत ते त्याच्यात हिंदू शब्द नाही. एकडे ती मूर्ती भारताची मूर्तीपूजा करायला माहिती नव्हती, मक्केमधली जी मूर्तीपूजा होती. त्यामुळे त्यांनी जे मानणारे लोक आहेत असे हा स्पष्ट संदेश आहे. पुष्कळशा गोष्टी मान्य कराव्या, अभ्यासकांनी मान्य करावा या मताचा मी आहे. आणि जसं आपल्या हिंदू धर्मामध्ये आहे, मला तो कोणी सांगायला आलं की जाती व्यवस्था मुसलमानाच्या मुळे नाही, जाती व्यवस्था होती अगोदर. नरबळी पण प्रकार होता, काही ठिकाणी नरबळी प्रकार होता, काही ठिकाणी दासीपुत्र. आता बघा ना, दिवे आणि शर्मिष्ठा आणि यांनी सांगितल्याप्रमाणे हेगर आणि ते साम्य असू शकतं. कारण सगळ्या संस्कृतीमध्ये चांगले वाईट याच्यामध्ये साम्य आढळू शकतं. पण शंकरराव, तुम्हाला मी परत सांगेन की तुम्ही नाना पालकरांचं इस्रायल छळातनं बळाकडे हे मराठी पुस्तक आणि सावरकरांचे जे लेख आहेत समग्र वाङ्मयामध्ये मिळेल तुम्हाला वाचायला, की यहुदी स्त्रिया आणि ख्रिश्चन याच्यावरचे लेख आहेत, वाचेल. तुम्हाला जुनं गाणं आवडत असेल, मेरी यहुदी की लडकी पिक्चर किती लोकांनी बघितलंय? यहुदी की लडकी किती लोकांनी? मीना कुमारी.
यहुदी बघितलाय, यहुदी की लडकी नाही बघितला.
मी यहुदी की लडकी बघत होतो, पण मला कोणी भेटले नाही तिथे. नाही, पण पिक्चर फार सुंदर. मीना कुमारीने काम केलं होतं, मेरी जा ते फेमस गाणं त्यातलं.
तो यहुदी की लडकी नाही, यहुदीच होता.
नाही, यहुदी की लडकी अगोदर एक आला होता, त्याच्यामध्ये ती सौरभ मोदीची बायको तिने काम केलं होतं. 40 सालचा पिक्चर आहे तो, यहुदी की लडकी.
विशाल, मी विनंती करतो की YouTube थांबव. शंकरजी, ह्याच्यामध्ये